Ethan's been watching us since day one. Literally, me and Bob, since the first time we streamed together. So he's like maybe seen that, you know, these guys are gonna keep coming at me. I don't know.
And then drama just dropped, by the way, while we're sitting
happened?
here. Between Critical Drinker and your boy Zach, now they're fighting. So
oh shit, that's awesome. I love it.
It's Review Tuesday, which means you've had 6 days to gauge what your audience will allow you to say. He's talking about Critical Drinker. If you would just review shows as soon as they came out, like every other critic on the planet, that would make you seem more like an actual critic than a consensus aggregator. Or
but see what he said about fucking RPG character creation?
Yeah, yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
And then it goes on here to say, Critical Drinker responds with, or maybe, you know, I actually have a life outside of YouTube. You live on YouTube, dude. Don't even try it.
Yeah.
I have a life outside of YouTube. Was away all weekend and only got back in time to watch and review the show yesterday. Seriously, dude, whatever hate boner you're maintaining here, just rub one out and get over it. That's real ironic coming from Critical Drinker. And then over here, Ethan says, seems like Zach hit a nerve, for fuck's sake, man. And then here, Clown's angry. They really can't handle criticism. And then he shows here, this absolute loser has been grifting off. Yeah, but watch this. He gets even better. This absolute loser has been grifting off my name and making videos seething about me for months now. I don't know if he's jealous because his own channel is dying or just fucked up in his head. Either way, it's pathetic to watch. And then Jeremy says, they push negativity and hate to their audience. They waited to see what the audience said before giving it a positive review. And then Ethan says, Jeremy, you love The Last Jedi and Ryan Johnson until one day, for some reason, you hated them both. You admitted on FNT that you guys find one little negative half news story and make 19 videos about it. Don't gaslight me, brah.
Oh
dude,
my
did we
God.
did we de-radicalize Ethan with our fucking
what's funny is those two stories are stories that we talk about all the time. We bring it up on here all the time. So
God damn, fucking high five, gentlemen. I think we had something to do with this.
Jesus.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like we're talking about infighting, and it's happening right now in front of us.
We can't even get through talking about the recent infighting before the infighting fucking. I mean, that's top level infighting too, man. That's fucking right up top.
So now we have Critical Drinker versus Richard Meyer versus Jeremy versus Ethan. So that's the new story.
Holy shit.
You assholes.
I've got a collection of what I feel like are some of the best moments that various grifters just revealing the grift or revealing that they are full of shit or whatever. And I'm curious. I'm sure you've seen a couple of these.
My favorite genre.
It really is a good one. I know you used one in your video with the that was the one that prompted me to do this. And so I started kind of thinking, what other clips do I know of where they just say something? It's like, come on, man, how do you not see that this is a grift?
That is Jeremy Griggs, the man behind Geeks and Gamers, who is, incidentally, the only one of these guys to have a shred of self-awareness.
Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it.
Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it.
He's a former Padawan who could put out sustained fires in the vacuum of space. Sustained fires in the vacuum of space. Sustained fires in the vacuum of space. Fires in the vacuum of space. Fires in the vacuum of space. Sustained fires in the vacuum of space.
The fact that there's so many videos and so many people that are just like, they stole her ass, you know, where's her cakes and shit like that. Like, and then you look, you just think about it for like a second. It's like, wait a second, this show was on for 5 seasons. it's the one image that we're constantly seeing, right? So that's the shot from the show.
That's
So it's not even like her like being sexy or anything. It's her facing down Apocalypse
in a vulnerable spot, to be sure. But yeah, let's see the context in the show.
You're cut out like all the others. You must be exterminated.
So why is it this one shot that's being, used?
Yeah, surely they could find a shot of her butt, like just like not being attacked by a super.
I did some looking, I did some digging, and I've got right here just kind of like the best shots from the show. If you want to look, you can go look. There's clips on YouTube. You can try to find me a single other fucking shot in the X-Men the Animated Series with her butt looking like this. Because guess what it looks like every other time.
I never thought I'd see this place again. Looks like the doc's doing a little.
It's just like what it looks like in the new image.
Don't get a mover. Come
And,
on.
flat butt. Flat butt.
Freak.
You're destroying my child.
Whatever you say, sugar.
Lenore's on. Flat butt. Look at that flat butt. Why are we objectifying a fucking cartoon in the first place is really the question.
Yeah, it's weird that like to prove how silly these arguments are that we have to sit here and be like, look, a flat butt on like a fucking cartoon character and just like zoom in.
Yeah.
Like,
But-
I mean, I recognize
there's a
how
reason
obscure
for
it was when I was doing it, but yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a reason for it.
Yeah, this X-Men 97 stuff from top to bottom shows like the entirety of the grift, right? Like you've got missing cakes, right? Which is not a thing that matters and shouldn't matter because it's not like she was known for her ass in the show. There's that one shot that's become a meme in the last decade.
Have a million spider folk, which doesn't even make sense when you consider Peter's origin.
I define everybody that's not Peter Parker as an unoriginal Peter Parker.
Talking about Peter Darker.
Fun fact. Eric used to like the character, even saying he's more than just a black Peter Parker, but he changed his tune when he found out he could make more money pandering to racist comic book fans who hate Miles Morales.
You're just actively making shit up, ha ha ha.
Did you used to like him? Not judging or whatever. Just curious.
No.
Do you like Miles Morales then?
No. Yeah, some characters have been written decently that are of different races and have suited up in the suit of a hero or a version of that hero. One of the more obvious is Miles Morales as Spider-Man.
You're just actively making shit up, ha ha ha.
Miles Morales has his own background. This is far better than just simply making Peter Parker a black guy.
Talking about Peter Darker.
But Miles is an exception, make no mistake. I define everybody that's not Peter Parker as an unoriginal Peter Parker. And it will always be preferable to have another character with his own unique skill set, unique art. This is far better than just simply making Peter Parker a black guy.
What's ISOM's superpower?
What are ISOM's superpowers?
Can he fly?
There's artwork of him out there, like, doing some flying.
Let's talk warehouses and warehouses-related things.
Is that the only thing you're allowed to watch in the warehouse is Eric July's own videos?
Can you thank Eric July for the great comic? Thanks for working on the International School of Ministry.
International School of Ministry.
He's a superhero. He puts himself in danger. We need to know what kind of super abilities he has.
Okay, so how much does the Blaze pay you? You got your picture on the wall. You must do something for him.
Did Miles, like, come in his life or something? What happened? And your shipping department needs to know you need smaller mailers or to wrap them properly because this book came damaged.
Y'all really bought that shit butt ass comic book. I'm crying.
What do you mean by new legacy character? If they're a legacy character, like, it wouldn't be new.
What? If she has a constant whirlwind that surrounds her, how could you make out the icicles that seem to grow from her pores?
Okay, what's the plot? Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
What do you mean, like going into the future for ISO 1, 2, and 3?
What do you mean new?
I'm retarded?
I don't understand it.
I see this as an absolute win.
Somebody please think of the children!
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying, fear or the frightened?
The facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Up yours, woke moralists.
Socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth.
And they're pushing identity politics with this. They 100% are.
How do you think homosexuals reveal themselves?
And the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
Welcome to the FAP. Nancy used to do that for me. Handsy Nancy, I called her. Oh, and by the way.
There's no strategy. I have no strategy.
Hello. I finally figured out how homosexuals reveal themselves. It's like this. Hello. Hi. Hi. I'm homosexual. All right. Hey.
Is this Red Hulk coming out day? Happy Pride, Red Hulk.
Except, and so what I should be able to do is to flip it inside out and show you that it's also Green Hulk. But as you see, I have green screen behind me. So hold on. Oh shit. So it just
It's the Invisible Hulk.
Invisible Hulk. Yeah.
That's a legacy character, Mr.
Super
July.
scary. That's actually pretty cool. You can see his face.
That
But nothing else.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah, no, this is a Father's Day gift for my son. It's fucking awesome.
Oh,
it's like
that's
it's like super
adorable.
comfortable.
I love
too.
it.
You know, like
Oh, and happy Father's Day, by the way.
my autism is pleased putting my hand in there. It's like, you know. How y'all doing?
Pretty
Living the
awesome.
Dream. And that I finally slept for the first time in like 2 weeks. So that.
Oh
was
god, yeah, I'm glad then. Oh, so the pain has subsided a bit.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, I guess y'all talking about the Amazing Fantasy 15 thing. It's amazing how many people really there's just this one guy who just won't let it go, and he'll show up in my comments and he's like, well, has Bob Chaos admitted yet that he was seemed really cringe going after Eric July about that. You know, it's such a stupid thing to go after somebody about, and blah blah blah. And it's like, for one, why are you coming at me about it?
Right, talk to Bob.
But I mean, even if, you know, Bob has acknowledged that his the way that he argued that, because he was so surprised by it that he didn't have time to think about it. He just kind of reacted and kind of went with a little bit of a gatekeeper reaction, right? When that really wasn't the best tactic. But I mean, even if that's a little bit cringe compared to the other shit that all the shit Eric July did in that same debate, it's nothing, you know.
It's not cringe at all. It was the perfect tactic for that situation, because it exposes the grift perfectly.
Well, no, because it would have been perfect had he actually expressed it in the way of like, you claim to be an expert and you don't even know what it is. But he was more like, how can you be? He was basically like, you claim to be a comics fan and you don't even know what it is. And that's not the best way to go about it.
No,
I guess that's fair.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that, like, if I don't know what Amazing Fantasy 15 is, whatever, I don't sell myself as a comic books expert broadly.
Right.
Like, I know X-Men, I know Green Lantern, and I know the IDW Transformers comics, and that's kind of it. Like, I know bits here and there, but like, I don't sell myself as an expert. So someone asked me where Spider-Man first appeared. Well, I don't care about Spider-Man, but Mr. July makes a lot of videos about Spider-Man and how it's being ruined. And
I mean, I agree. I don't think there's anything ethically wrong with it. I just think that in terms of like rhetorical, tactical, you know, kind of like to get a clear win on that point, that even his fans couldn't deny, because I mean, anybody else recognizes what the real issue is there.
Right.
But like, if he would have just, you know, and I don't fault him, because how would you expect him to not be able to answer that question? You know what I mean? Like, that he was so certain that he would be able to answer that question that Bob reached for the comic book that anybody should know. Right. Like, if you're pretty much into comics to a heavy degree and have been for a long time, you're going to know what that is.
Especially for someone who talks about Spider-Man so much. Like,
yeah. And the point Bob was leading up to it, he wasn't even asking that as a gotcha question. He was leading into a question about character motivation. And he was going to say, okay, in Amazing Fantasy 15, what was Peter Parker's motivation for going out to the wrestling match or whatever? And to contrast that with Isom, who has no discernible character motivation.
Right.
That was the point he was leading up to.
What do you mean subway tunnel? Who's got a subway tunnel?
I don't know.
Is it me?
Is it
check
me?
My audio. Check. Nope. My mic's good.
1 2.
1 2 3. 1 2 3.
1 2. Okay. Thanks for context. Oh, it is you. Okay.
Oh,
you are the subway tunnel.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, you know, it's one of those things that even if Eric had said in the moment, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I have no idea. Rather than like get all evasive, like I think that Eric Eric embarrassed himself by not just going, remind me, because there's a lot of comic books.
Yeah.
Well, and then, you know, to go on the route of like checking for chat to give him the answer to, you know, which Bob did the detective work of going through and like, because, you know, the chat was on Eric's channel, not on Bob's channel. He had to go to Eric's channel and like time the two things and like, you know, watch what happens there. And you can clearly see him just go, you know, where his chat is or whatever, on whatever monitor he has. So bad. So this is a fun thing that I have that's completely, well, not completely, but a bit unrelated to anything today. I forgot that like I don't know, months ago, I found this thread on something that was like posting clips of some white dude saying the punch me word to a black dude. And then they get punched, and it's pretty funny. I've got 4 clips of that happening in different circumstances. So I don't know. I was looking at them before the stream. I'm like, that's fun.
The punch me word to people before,
you know,
who might punch you.
The N-word. Saying the N-word to black guys is basically just saying, hey, I like to be punched in the face a lot.
It is.
You know, and deservedly so.
Right. Just like maybe don't. Anyway. You know what you're doing when you do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's his kink, you know?
That could be.
Yeah, maybe, well, you know what? Let's check this one out. So this is one right here. This one's extra funny. I think he says it before the thing starts. There is one where you do hear the guy say it. I don't think this is one of those. He said it, and then it was already filming, I think.
What's up? What? Deal, cut. You're not gonna save me, security? No, not at all. Ah, fuck ass. Hello? 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 Yes, I'm at the Greyhound station. I'm at the Greyhound station. I'm over here calling the motherfuckers niggers and shit.
Yeah.
I like when the guy goes up to security. Hey, if you know anything about security guards, they're paid jack and shit. So that guy wasn't going to do anything. But Shillcast always like, no.
Is that what that was? That might have been where I got. Was that last year that I downloaded those? Jesus Christ.
Okay, that tracks. But before the dark times.
Well, I mean, it was still pretty dark over there.
It was still pretty bad, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I think people forget how bad Twitter actually was before.
It wasn't great, no.
We kind of romanticize it a little bit.
So I don't get on Blue Sky or anything really that much anymore, but like whenever I do get on Blue Sky, I tend to see now there's this narrative that's formed, and I'm pretty sure that it's not a authentic one. That's like Blue Sky is, it doesn't have enough diverse content or perspectives, and it's it's kind of become an echo chamber or whatever. And it's like, are you a Nazi? You're a Nazi, aren't you?
You're a Nazi,
yeah. Saying this.
Or you're lazy and you work for a Nazi because, as someone who scrolls Blue Sky, Blue Sky is great because what you see on Blue Sky is the feeds that you want to see on Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not seeing diverse things on Blue Sky, it's because you're not looking for it. And then the other thing is like, oh, when I signed up for my account, it doesn't show me anything. It's like, well, yeah, because you don't you didn't subscribe to any feeds. So yes, it will not show you anything because you have to opt into seeing things. That's how Blue Sky works.
You got to put in a little effort. Yeah.
And it's great because when I want to see Warhammer stuff, I have my Warhammer feeds and I can go see people's Warhammer art and I can see discussions about the meta for whatever the latest Gundam episode comes out. I have a feed for that. For just my general who I follow feed, I have one for that. It's great. I love it.
It's kind of like what the internet bulletin board community used to be.
Very much so, yeah.
You see what you want to see, you join the communities you want to be a part of, and you participate in the conversations that happen within those communities, and you are never required to listen to some asshole who decided he's going to come in here and abuse everybody.
Right, and with how blocking works on Blue Sky is if someone comes into one of those spaces and is a thistle dick, then you block him, and it blocks everything he's ever done, any post that's interacted with him, and if he's posted on your stuff before, it ejects it, so people who follow you never see it.
What was that word? What'd you say?
Nuclear.
Did you say thistle dick?
Thistle dick.
Okay, all right. Well, that's the word of the day, thistle dick. So anytime you hear somebody say that, scream.
What, thistle dick?
Yeah. All right. So we want to talk about a couple things happened yesterday that I think should be pretty encouraging. And we're going to talk about why that is, and the potential possibilities that could come from it if enough people recognize the what happened yesterday. But basically, to sum it up, I have this thing here.
The military parade, the Kim Jong-un style, Soviet style thing in Washington with tanks in the street, I think is a flop. Newsmax is reporting 10,000 people showed up for this thing.
I think that he's got to take his medicine here.
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now. Oh.
Happy birthday, big fella.
if that crowd size is accurate, 10,000, I have been to like gaming conventions and anime conventions that were several times that size.
I saw somebody describe it as a mid-sized town's July 4th celebration.
Yeah.
Like, no, they didn't, and we're going to talk about potential for why that might be too.
My hope was just compliant.
So, 11 million is probably on the
High side.
very, very generous side, because
Yeah.
the number that the organizers of the event have settled with so far has been like 5+ million.
Yeah.
But I've seen other estimates around 8, 9, 10. I've seen up to 12, and I went ahead and went a little bit lower than that.
Well, 12 sounds remarkably wishful thinking.
True.
Somewhere between 5 and 8 is where I would guess, based on what I've seen out there.
I don't know. I saw a pretty reliable crowd counting guy on Blue Sky who's been updating his estimates in real time, and he's inching up on 10 million right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. I haven't looked at it all day, so.
So the reason is that it keeps coming in is because, similar to, I guess, elections, is like rural areas came out in force as well.
A lot of smaller towns and mid-sized cities. Yeah.
Yeah, and the crowd sizes in those towns relative to their population is pretty significant. Like, if it's a small town of, like, say, 2,000 people, and 100 people show up, that's like 5% of the population.
Yeah.
So Bastille Day parade was what apparently inspired Trump in his first term to want to do this, and he would agitate people trying to get it done the first time. They're like, we're not doing that. We don't do that here, man. And I guess this time.
Interesting thing I learned about this event is that it was an event that was planned before Trump was president.
Yes.
Right.
Because it was the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. So they were going to
just fucking glommed himself onto this shit. It was his 250th anniversary of the Army and Flag Day. And he's like, well, that's my birthday. I'm just going to head and I'm going to be part of that now. I'm the president. You can't say no. I mean, what you can't, I'm going to grab you by the pussy, basically.
What's funny is some of his surrogates in the media have tried to walk that back even before this. Like, well, no, it's about the Army. It's not about Trump. It's like,
well, I might have a reason why that is. One potential reason. Anyway, let's see if I can pull that up. So this is an article from a couple of days ago from Yahoo News, and it is titled "Trump is paranoid." Oh, not that. That. Nobody will come to his 79th birthday party.
Aw, poor baby.
And he was like, actively wandering around talking to people, saying that he's like worried that people aren't going to show up to his little parade, his $45 million plus parade, because that's $45 million is like what was the planned costs were. And then these tanks fucking destroyed DC streets.
Right.
Like, they're not made to fucking tanks aren't supposed to be on the street.
Yeah.
And there were people skimming money off the top of that because that's the way Trump works. Yes. So they didn't actually spend all 45 million on the parade.
Well, who didn't like have good spaces to stay in? They didn't set up camp for the troops. They had them in fucking warehouses, bunked in warehouses. They didn't get like when they're deployed.
Hotels were empty because nobody fucking came to town to see it.
Yep.
Yeah, they had them in warehouses in the swamp. Because DC, if you don't know, is built on a swamp.
Yeah.
In June. So they had, no wonder our army soldiers are there, and they're out in the swamp for several days before all this. They're not getting the meals they're supposed to get on deployment. They're not sleeping in conditions that they should be sleeping in according to army regulations.
Look, they're they're just trying to condition them to what they're going to put up with when they invade Iran. That's it. They're going to treat them exactly the same way.
Probably.
They just want to get them used to it now.
So not even Republicans wanted to show up. So MAGA Mike Johnson, his excuse was he was preparing to downsize his house. Another senator had said that he was going to be watching college sports. Another was flying to Paris for the air show there. And one joked about needing to stay married.
Okay, so I have a question. I have a question. Mike Johnson doesn't list ownership of a house on his taxes. So what house is he downsizing?
I don't know. Why?
Like his like asset reporting because as part of being a member of Congress, you have to report your assets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't report a home or like a sizable income anywhere, sizable savings. So what house is he downsizing? I want to know.
It's all in his wife's name.
Right. Yeah, probably.
Senator Rand Paul, what a piece of shit he is, but sometimes, more than a lot of Republicans, I find myself agreeing with him. I've never been a big fan of goose-stepping soldiers and big tanks and missiles rolling down the street. He was disgusted at the lavish observance.
You got that reminder on his calendar that like people voted for me because they like my dad, and my dad hated the military and black people, but and Jews.
Which is a big part of the reason he hated the
military.
Give him
you got to give him a little bit of credit for trying to do the real life Osborne hair. The Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn type hairstyle. He's trying, man. He's trying.
You're right. Oh, God.
My favorite clip of the military march, you included it in your little montage, but the music covered it up, is like the clip of the tank rolling past the empty bleachers, and all you can hear in the original clip is the squeaking wheels of the tank.
Yeah, it's like
that's it. There's no cheering. There's no music.
There is a clip where the music in the background from the speakers, they're playing Fortunate Son.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
I've got an article from The Verge here that I really hope you guys will let me read. It's pretty short, but it's fucking great. Just excellent writing. So look at this. I mean, I know he's a 79-year-old overweight man, but like, come on, man. Like, sit up straight, dude. Face painting. I think this is the one that I wanted to read. Let me see real quick. Okay.
You know what's interesting is like it's a lot of like tech sites that are covering what a shit show this was. Where like the Washington Post and the New York Times are like, oh yeah, it was this big military parade with all these soldiers and tanks, and we're not going to show pictures of the crowd size at all.
Okay, so this is the article. It's Tanks, Guns, and Face Painting. This is from The Verge. Of all the jarring things I've witnessed on the National Mall, nothing will beat the image of the first thing I saw after I cleared security at the Army Festival. A child sitting at the controls of an M119A3 howitzer, being instructed by a soldier on how to aim it, as his red-hatted parents took a photo of the Washington Monument in the background. The primary stated reason for the Grand Military Parade is to celebrate the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. The second stated reason is to use the event for recruiting purposes. Like other military branches, the Army has struggled to meet its enlistment quotas over the past decade. And according to very defensive Army spokespeople trying to convince skeptics that the parade was not for Donald Trump's birthday, there had always been a festival planned on the National Mall that day, and it had been in the works for over 2 years. And the parade tacked on just 2 months ago was purely incidental. Assuming that their statement was true, I wasn't quite sure if I had anticipated so many people in blatant MAGA swag in attendance, or how eager they were to bring their children and hand them assault rifles. There had been kid-friendly events planned, an NFL kids zone with a photo op with the Washington Commanders mascot, a few face painting booths, and several rock climbing walls, but they were dwarfed literally by dozens of war machines parked alongside the jogging paths, massive tanks, trucks with gun-mounted turrets, assault helicopters, many of them currently used in combat, all with helpful signs explaining the history of each vehicle, as well as the guns and ammo it would carry. And the families wearing everything from J6 shirts to Vineyard Vines were drawn more to the military vehicles, all too ready to place their kids in the cockpit of an AH-1F Cobra 988 helicopter as they pretended to aim the nose-mounted 3-barreled Gatling cannon. Parents told their children to smile as they poked their little heads out of the hatch of a Stryker armored vehicle, reminded them to be patient as they waited in line to sit inside self-propelled howitzer with a 155 millimeter rifled cannon. But seeing kids' happiness of being inside a big thing that goes boom, or watching a Boston Dynamics quadruped robot dog trotting around nearby was nothing compared to the grown-ups' faces when they got the chance to hold genuine military assault rifles, especially the grown-ups who had been made sure to wear Trump merch during the Army's birthday party. Some even handed the rifles to their children for their own photo ops. Jesus Christ. It seemed not even a free Army-branded Bluetooth speaker could compare to how fucking sick the modded AR-15 was. That's what I was trying to get to.
Maybe it's because of where I grew up.
Uh-huh.
But handling an AR-15, no matter how many toys you dress up the Barbie doll with, they're all kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you've handled an AR-15. You mean the most commonly sold firearm in America? Like, congratulations, you cosplayer.
Maybe these kids are just aware of how much one of these things rips through a small child's body. You know, like
you brought it there.
That's where it needs to be brought. Like every fucking time. I'm sorry.
That's true.
Attendees were in raptures over the quadcopter drone gun or a Gatling gun, or really any of the other guns available, except for those historic guns. Those were only maybe cool. However many protesters made it out to DC, they were dwarfed by thousands of people winding down Constitution Avenue to enter the parade viewing grounds. Lots of MAGA heads, lots of foreign tourists, all people who really just like to see big tanks. Angry losers, they jeered at the protesters. Don't worry about them, said one cop. They lost anyways. After walking past them, crossing the bridge, winding through hundreds of yards of metal fencing, funneling through security, crossing a choked pedestrian bridge over Constitution Avenue, I was finally dumped onto the parade viewing section. Slightly muggy and surprisingly navigable. It's fucking little burn right there. And surprisingly navigable. I can get around really easy. There's like no crowd.
Have
but
you
whatever
seen the queues, the metal queue fences they had set up that were just empty?
So this is the fucking funniest part that had me laughing my ass off on it. I was finally done. Yeah, whatever sluggishness the crowd was feeling, it would immediately dissipate the moment a tank turned the corner and the music started blasting. Americans have a critical weakness for 70s and 80s rock, and this crowd seemed more than willing to look past the questionable origins of the parade, so long as the soundtrack had a sick guitar solo. An M1 Abrams tank driving past you while Barracuda blasts on a tower of speakers, badass.
Oh,
Black Hawk helicopters circling the Washington Monument and disappearing behind the African American History Museum, thrashing your head to Separate Ways by Journey, fucking badass. Another M1 Abrams tank into Fortunate Son, they got me fucking
there it
hooked.
is.
Right. When does Truckosaurus show up?
No shit.
Just a $45 million monster truck rally that makes fun of itself.
The tank was so badass that the irony of Fortunate Son didn't matter. For anybody who doesn't know, that's a Creedence Clearwater Revival song that is literally anti-war.
It's it's very, very anti-war.
Well, that's kind of on brand for the conservatives. They're always like trying to steal songs that are anti-war or critical of America and rebrand them as patriotic anthems.
Right.
So then the last funniest part is that correction, June 15th. An earlier version of this article referenced a Boston Dynamics robot dog gun. However, the Boston Dynamics quadruped robots at the event did not have a gun equipped and are built for reconnaissance. Its company policies prohibit the weaponization of its robots.
Okay.
That's good.
And I mean, maybe that's the true correction. Maybe that really was something they accidentally said, but I mean, it's fucking hilarious to me. That's a thing that had to be said. All right. So, let's talk about the other thing. Unless you guys had anything to say about the Trump party.
What a joke. Like, it's a parade disguised as a joke, disguised as a parade.
So, okay. So
Right.
this actually, it seems like the military's not with them.
Yeah.
By and large. Like, if you watch some of the I mean, basically, anytime you see the soldiers marching, which they're supposed to do in lockstep, like in perfect unison, they practice that shit a lot. They weren't doing it. There's especially whenever they're passing by the commander in chief, they're supposed to do it as perfect as you possibly can while they look to him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They didn't seem to be fucking too worried about that for the most part.
Yeah, I
And I don't know if that's like is that, you know, kind of rebellious thing going on or what?
It looked to me like malicious compliance.
Yeah.
That was
which
my
is a form of rebellion, but yeah.
I mean, they can't do a whole lot without getting kicked out, but that is something they can do that leaves them benefit of the doubt, so they can't just immediately be accused of disrespecting the president on purpose. Right.
And there's no way that all of them did that without the consent of their commanding officers.
Yeah. Well, look at it this way: how many of, especially commanding officers, how many of them served in Afghanistan at this point, and watched the shit show that was Trump folding to the Taliban and allowing them to take back the country, which he scheduled that so the actual fallout date was in the next administration, so it would fall on them. But all those officers that were over there, that's gone through the ranks. That was all Army over there. And then they've been cooped up in hot warehouses, not getting 3 squares a day. And then, there's been a lot of journals and other reporting written by people who have, and this is probably a smaller population because we're a smaller population, but there are people whose units have lost members due to the trans-military bans. That you have people who have fought in your unit, who have served in your unit for years, who are trans.
Yeah.
And they were removed, and they were good soldiers. And the trans population, as a percentage of there are more trans people serving per trans person than a lot of other demographics in America. We serve at a very high rate. For
it's sort of
bunch
ironic.
Of interesting reasons.
It's sort of ironic to me that, given that it is an imperialist institution and such, the U.S. military, in my experience with having family members in it and having grown up near a military base and all this other stuff, the rank and file are some of the least prejudiced people I have ever met, because they serve alongside, even if they're some country bumpkin who never met a black person before they joined the military, by the time they reach the end of their service, they have served alongside openly queer people and people of color and women and all this other stuff.
Say what you want about the military. I have my criticisms, but I imagine, that in that situation, you just learn what a person is really about over, a certain amount of time. There's no mistaking if they're a good human being or loyal or true to their word or whatever. And that stuff, leaves an impression rather than just oh, it's a black guy or whatever.
I think the only branch that I've noticed the opposite from as a majority of people I know from that service who are kind of shitty is people in the Marines. And that's just entirely my subjective observation of people I know or have met in my life. But
it becomes quite a bit more elitist to be a Marine, right? There's probably some gatekeeping and some holier than thou bullshit that comes along with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even in the Marines, in the U.S. military broadly, the percentage of that population, of the enlisted population that is minority, is higher than the general public.
Yeah.
I think black men are 20% of the U.S. military when they're only 13% of the general population. So if you're a white person joining the military, you're going to encounter a bunch of people you have never met before. And you have to get along with them or you get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, it's under even shitty administrations like the Bush administration, and part of this was just needing to put boots on the ground. But this whole racial purity thing that we have in our current DoD is something that went away in the 50s.
Yeah, I can't imagine the current military is happy about any of these orders they're getting. Barry Goldwater said it back in the 1950s. You don't have to be straight to shoot straight.
Right.
And that was Barry fucking Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater.
Talking about having openly gay people in the military.
Right. Maybe not Jewish people, but gay people. Barry Goldwater is an interesting historical figure.
Yeah.
Not
but
a
he was
good
right
one,
on
just
that
an
one,
interesting one.
On that one point, he was right. You do not, in fact, have to be straight to shoot straight.
It's true. I can confirm.
And the modern military claims to only care about unit cohesion and combat readiness and all these other buzzwords. They, of course, care about more than that. That's They're an institution with built-in biases like any other, but
right.
those are their guiding stars. And
So-
taking trans people out of the military en masse undermines unit effectiveness and cohesion.
And forcing soldiers who nobody practices driving tanks for parades, right? Like, it's just not going to go well.
How these people have gotten things so fucking mixed up to where they think that having diversity is the thing that ruins the ability and the skill level, lowers the skill level or whatever, because you're allowed. It's like, no, you're removing skill and experience by removing people based on some unrelated trait of their identity.
Do you know what really fucks up military readiness? When you stop vaccinating your troops?
Yeah.
Like, one of the greatest inventions in the history of warfare is the vaccine. Because it turns out one of the biggest killers of soldiers in the history of humanity is disease.
Yeah.
And when you enlist in the service, it does not matter what your branch is or what your role is. Shot.
Yeah.
I did have a couple... Sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, when it comes to the diversity point you made a minute ago, the military is the proof that diversity comes before meritocracy. You cannot have a meritocracy unless you first have diversity.
I mean, like, our military, and I'm not saying this is like, yeah, I'm proud and it's badass, is like, it's fucking essentially unstoppable at this point. You know what I mean? Even probably with lower recruiting and stuff like that. I mean, China would probably give us a run for our money, but like, it's pretty fucking badass. It's full of the best trained human beings as far as like how to fucking wage war and kill motherfuckers.
Well, if you want to see exactly where the fault in our military lies, we can roll into a place and we can take it over and we can kill a whole bunch of people. But if you don't have leaders in the top of your government and the top of your military who have a clear set objective as to why they're there in the first place, they're going to spin their wheel for decades and get a lot of people killed, including their own.
Prove it. That's never happened.
Where do you want me to start?
Anyway,
you also have to have leadership who understands what the military's job is and what it isn't. Like, if you send the military into, say, I don't know, Iraq to overthrow the government, and then you expect them to
they were trained to spread democracy, right? Isn't that what the military does? They spread democracy, right? Like a disease.
No, that's not what they do. But what we did in Iraq was we overthrew a government, and then we installed the United States military as the governing authority there.
Yeah.
Rather than sending
we were supposed to be a transitional government, but like, I don't know, it just never seemed to be able
we put the military in charge of doing that, and that's not the military's job. If you had proper leadership, we're laying aside the question of whether it was justified to do that or not.
Right.
Once you've done it, if you don't send in diplomats and not like non-profit groups and stuff like that to do that work for you, then you're just an idiot.
The irony of being like, we're going to give you guys democracy, but we got to not let you have democracy for several fucking years first.
Well, this was like why with like the Kosovo conflict, why like the UN as peacekeepers was involved, and why it was a big deal that the UN would not involve itself in Iraq, was because in the Balkans conflicts, the UN did all of that transitional government work because they have the staff who are experts in that field. There's no one in the military. That's not the military's job.
Yeah.
And the reason we don't have those people in our military is because we have a UN for that.
But the UN is run by communists and Satanists, so we can't use them.
Two more things real quick, just a couple of facts about the Trump parade. One, his people are claiming 250,000 showed up.
250,000 showed up to his.
That's what they're claiming.
Way.
Press X to doubt.
Yeah. And then also, surprise, Big Tech quietly sponsors Trump's military parade party.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about
Palantir was one of them, right?
Yep. America 250, Oracle, Amazon, Coinbase, Lockheed Martin, Palantir.
Yeah.
Cool.
Coinbase. Wow.
Just a little good thing to know about, I guess.
That's okay. So like, I'm going to guess on some of that. Like the people who run Palantir are true believers.
Well, I mean, the two owners are fucking Trump's asshole.
Jeff Bezos is paying a bribe. I think Oracle was probably exploited because they have a lot of contracts with the government and specifically with the military that, given the Trump regime's willingness to just cut contracts willy-nilly and damn the consequences, they basically were blackmailed into it, is my guess from my understanding of Oracle's business practices, which is more than you would think. The rest of them I don't have the familiarity with. I mean, Lockheed Martin is Lockheed Martin. That's a war crime company.
They reached out to all of them, all the companies, to get a comment. The only one that replied was Lockheed Martin. It seemed like everybody else was like, "No, I don't want to talk." And then Lockheed Martin's like, "Fuck yeah, we're sponsoring. Fuck yeah, we love this shit." You know, like
we're War Crimes Inc. If Lockheed Martin wasn't on there, I would be questioning the source.
Is Lockheed Martin okay?
Yeah, someone do a wellness check on Lockheed Martin.
All right, so then we pivot to the other thing. I mean, the thing that truly dwarfed Trump's bullshit, and we kind of look at the little bit of the details of No King's Day, which I honestly didn't expect to. Like, I just heard of it like 3 days before, and I was like, oh, I'm going to promote this. I didn't know that it was going to be something so massive.
It's a big deal.
I don't think anyone knew it would be this massive.
It just seemed like something I should mention because it's like, well, this seems like a good plan, right? Like, do not do it in DC, do it everywhere else, and then see what happens. And that seems to be a fucking stroke of brilliance because, yeah, there was there were some protesters in DC or whatever, but they're not supposedly part of No King's Day. And then elsewhere, you had lots of mofos. Boston had like 1 million people. They were also doing what was it, like a Black Lives Matter thing, maybe? Or no, they were doing a Pride thing.
Pride, yeah.
As well. They kind of coupled them together. So they had like over 1 million people in Boston. But pretty much everywhere had great turnout.
Because the only kings that LGBT people respect are drag kings.
And then
no kings but drag kings, yes.
No kings but drag kings. Or Elvis.
The amazing thing is that by and large, peaceful. I mean, this, like I was saying on stream yesterday, it's absurd to hold to the standard of like 100% peaceful protest because that's what the chuds want. That's what they act like. They're like, oh, somebody started a fire. It's not a peaceful protest. It's like, okay, so then your standard is fucking absurd, and you just don't want anybody to protest. Gotcha.
Well, like the protests in LA, there was violence because the LAPD and the LA County Sheriff's Department started shooting into the crowd.
I figured Bob would talk about that one.
And each other. And for our expert in the field, Bob.
Yeah, so we had fucking cops versus cops, which, cool, man. But like it also caused some problems for regular people. But go ahead. What happened?
Before I tell that story, I would like to point out that the strategy for the No Kings protest was brilliant about, decentralizing it and making it something so people did not have to travel to a big like urban hub to be part of it. They turned it into something where you can make it about hometown pride and make it a day out for the family, so you don't have to like pack up everything. Just put the kids in the car, drive 20 minutes. For most places in the country, it's no more than a 20-minute drive from your house to the event. And there's music and candy and food, and it's like a little festival. It's brilliant strategy. And that's what's going to make the movement sustainable over the next 4 years or so. So, well done to Indivisible and all the other groups who organized this.
There's a lot of groups and a lot of people. And even people outside those groups who made it known. Like, I know we got something from our Alder about it, from his his campaign office, not his like political office, but from his like when I'm running for re-election office.
So, the funny story from the LA event, and this is all based on police chatter, like the I forget the name of the device where you can listen in on the police monitor.
Yeah, police scanner.
Police scanner. Thank you. I don't know why I was forgetting that word, but this is based on chatter from police scanners and from tweets that are sent out by the LAPD to their members of the LAPD, authorized to let them know things have been authorized.
Right.
The LAPD and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the LASD, apparently got into a shooting match with each other. And the public found out about this because the LAPD tweeted out that less lethal ammunition against the LASD had been approved because they were taking fire from the LASD. And what apparently happened is that the LAPD fired tear gas at protesters who were in the general direction of the LASD, and the LASD, being far more corrupt and far more infiltrated by organized crime than the LAPD is, decided they weren't going to take this. So they apparently started shooting rubber rounds directly at the LAPD. So the LAPD authorized the use of rubber rounds against the LASD. And I don't know how long this went on for, but they will find a way to blame this on the protesters for sure.
Because one of the reasons that it's hypothesized they started shooting is because there was nothing going on in the crowds and the protests at that time. Was that they were bored.
Well, the LAPD issued a dispersal order around like 4 p.m.
Okay.
And there's for downtown LA, since last week, there has been a curfew for 8 p.m.
Sure.
So I think the logic of the LAPD was, well, we'll issue the dispersal order at 4 p.m. and that gives everybody 4 hours to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
But people weren't leaving. So they decided, so I think the LAPD's thinking was, well, let's fire some tear gas and disperse this crowd.
Sure.
Which is stupid, but they should not be doing that. But I think that was what they were thinking. And the LASD, now these two organizations hate each other.
They hate, And that's not
LASD has been.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The LASD has been investigated by the feds and by the state attorney general because they are literally a gang.
Yeah.
They have a whole network of internal gangs with their own tattoos and their own initiation rituals and all that other shit inside the LA County Sheriff's Department. And they've been there for decades. It's just basically a mafia.
Right.
And the LAPD, for all of its faults, is just a police department.
And all of the evil that entails. But
but also some of the good things that entails. And one of the good things is that they investigate some of the gang activity that the LASD gangs are, doing inside of Los Angeles, the city. So these two organizations do not like each other at all. And that, I'm sure, contributed to this whole clusterfuck. But anyway, once the dispersal order was issued, and as the curfew got closer, the cops closed off the main avenue out of the area, the one that most people would be using to get out. They closed that off. So they were basically preventing people from leaving.
Yeah. Which is not an uncommon police tactic.
Yeah.
It's called
fucking
kettling.
psychotic shit.
It's an excuse to do police brutality. Basically what they do is that they'll pen in a crowd, and then, well, the crowd can't go anywhere, so then the beatings begin.
Yeah, because they have quotas they have to meet.
Yeah. Yeah. And NYPD also has a lot of internal corruption and a lot of internal gangs. And yeah, they're their own. They have the more military funding than some militaries, than a lot of militaries.
I don't know the specifics of the NYPD, but I do know that the LASD is really considered the most corrupt police department in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, nowhere is as bad as them.
Yeah, the only thing that is preventing that, like, people in Los Angeles hate the sheriff's department more than the LAPD because they are dicks to the LAPD too. They hate everybody.
Right.
And they have overlapping jurisdictions. Like, because LA, the city, is in Los Angeles, the county, the sheriffs can patrol the city.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, it's messed up. Whereas I think the NYPD is its own thing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like a county. There's no New York County that I'm aware of.
No, there's a New York County, but I believe it's the same police organization for both. Like, I don't think there's a separate like sheriff's department for the county.
Yeah.
But worth looking into. All right.
In one of our discords, I shared a link to a deep dive into the history of the LASD's gang problem, and it's
I read some of it.
It is super long and super interesting, but
it was longer than I thought it was going to be when I started reading because I'm like, I have to go.
yeah, one of the women that investigated them recently is now being charged by them with crimes.
That tracks, yeah.
Yeah.
Our former sheriff in Milwaukee County tried to do that a whole bunch. He was that guy, David Clark, who he did stuff with Trump, and he had his like tin pot dictator medals all over his sheriff uniform.
Yeah.
And basically invented medals for himself to wear. Also,
yeah. I mean, the LASD is like take all of the worst aspects of a police department and combine them with all of the worst aspects of gang violence. And that's the LASD. Whereas the LAPD is just take all of the bad aspects of the police department.
Yeah.
Okay, so in New York, the 5 boroughs are considered counties, but they fall under the jurisdiction of the NYC.
Okay.
So the NYPD supersedes the counties.
Yeah, which is
Whereas
interesting.
in LA, it's the other way around.
Yeah, most places are more like LA, where the sheriff's department has a bigger, or the county has a bigger jurisdiction than the city. But New York City is its own very strange thing.
Anyway, let's talk about why the No Kings was awesome.
Yes.
And why it's cause for hope.
All right. Give me
and
some
the 3.5 rule.
Yeah, well, before that, I have a question I'm going to drop on you guys.
All right.
What would it take to convert this into a general strike?
A lot more organizing over a lot longer time.
A lot of money.
This was basically a trial run, a proof of concept, more or less. This is the model we can use going forward. It's sustainable. If we do stuff like this on every weekend, a lot of people are going to show up all over the country. So now we can build on that through more organizing.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things with general strikes is that the reason they work in places like France is you have a more robust social safety net. So people are able to do it is less self-destructive to your own well-being to engage in a general strike, just because I'm not going to lose my health care in France.
Yeah.
My rights as a property owner or a renter are more secure in France than they are in the United States. So without having that social safety net like they do over there, what we would need is what unions do when they prepare for strikes, which is one of the things unions do is save money to pay their people when they're on strike. It's not what they make normally, but it is to help them get by when they're on strike.
So we probably have to build up something like a No Kings General Fund or something like that.
Probably a bunch of them. You would probably want that to be
a bunch of local funds that are earmarked or named No Kings or something like that.
Right.
And let people know that this resource is available to them if the general strike is going to impact them economically.
Right.
Very good. Ask a question, get a solid answer. I like it. I like the system you got here.
Happy to help.
All right. Now we do the other thing. Yeah.
Do the thing.
Well, first let's take a look at this. This is fun.
All right.
Proud Boys. Cool.
Fucking, they look so sad.
Yeah.
With their little police security.
Yep. They're protected. So at some point, I believe they start getting they get drowned out and like just have to go away. Pretty funny.
Notice how no one seems to care that they're there.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody.
Like,
we don't jack off.
Like they're
I
not
have had blue
intimidating at
balls.
all. No one is intimidated by them at all.
No.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I think it's becoming more and more common knowledge that fascists have glass jaws.
That's why that guy's wearing a mask. Look at the masks. There's a bunch of masks in there. Gotta hide themselves.
What a tuba in this thing. Suck tuba, bitch.
That guy fucks on that thing.
Normally I don't like the saxophone, but I'm gonna allow it.
I'm here for it.
What they really need here is a mariachi band.
Oh yeah. The little girl up there dancing behind him. Fucking snuck up there.
This is Atlanta, by the way.
The crowd's having so much fun, and the Proud Boys are just like fucking sulking. No joy.
I don't know what to do.
Joyless, maidenless. Nothing to be proud of.
Fucking aura, yeah, this guy is fucking.
Yeah.
Fucking dick. Yeah.
Even a couple of fucking Proud Boys are clapping.
I gotta admit, those pretty good, man. This fucking trombone guy. Amazing.
And like the guy, so like the Proud Boy with the hat and the protester with the hat, just look like they're having like a casual conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're not arguing in any way.
Which honestly is a valid thing because, you know, what they want is to engage and escalate.
Right.
And so, I mean, if you're just occupying their time this way, sure. Valid tactic.
And I wonder, are the Proud Boys even allowed to call themselves Proud Boys anymore after they lost that lawsuit?
I mean,
Black church that took their trademark.
I literally saw a video where one announces himself as that, and he's like, "We're Proud Boys, we're chauvinists, we're, you know,
yeah,
that same old shtick they've been doing in 17 or 16 or whatever." It's like, yeah. Go, don't jack off, or maybe you should, and maybe your life will get better, you know?
Yeah, that's.
And they're gone. Anyway, that's fun.
So two things that should have been there. Number one, a mariachi band, because that always makes everything better. Number two, when they were walking away, the guy with the tuba should have gotten behind them and gone.
Well, what about this though?
Clank it on.
That whole parade, that whole military parade was small dick energy.
It really was.
Thunderbolts joke.
Yeah, they rolled out a lot of old kit.
Yeah, but it's because the parade was
like a history.
They marched through the ages. So like at the front of the parade was
that
like
the only part kind of intrigued me looking at the clips. Was like, oh, that's kind of neat, you know, like and they got some of the stuff still around.
Like
you know,
the first people to
like
march past were in the first people that marched past were in Revolutionary War gear, and then they did like I think the War of 1812, and then so each successive war the U.S. has fought, they brought people out in that kit to march.
So which uniforms did they roll out for the Civil War?
If Trump had the military in his pocket, he would have been able to get them to do a Confederate, section of the parade too, right? Like he would have been able to call that and just like make that happen, you know. But
Yeah,
no.
we haven't seen anything about that. Like, I kind of think they just rolled out the Union Blues.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I guess that's something.
Well, because the Confederates were not Americans.
No, they're not. They're fucking traitors.
They, by definition, were seceding from America.
Right.
So fuck them. Fucking losers. All right. What were we gonna do? What were we gonna talk about?
More No King stuff, I think.
Okay.
And then you wanted to share some Tulsi Gabbard news with us?
Yeah, we have some Tulsi Gabbard news.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we should spend a little bit more time on No Kings, I think, because
I agree.
Because it's important to highlight why this is a sign of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Despite the fact that we're in for some hard times over the next 4 years.
Yesterday we watched on my stream this Taylor Lorenz video from a while back. I think you guys saw it when she dropped it, but like it's the rise and fall of the resistance movement from the first Trump administration, which I admit to I never bought fully into, but I kind of sometimes would be like, yeah, get them. Kind of fucking bullshit. And early on anyway, eventually I realized I was like, oh wait, I don't think this is doing anything.
Right.
But like, a lot of those people just turn out to be fucking grifters and like, right wingers and shit like that. And it's pretty fucking, that video is not just sobering. It's kind of fucking, it's a punch in the fucking spirit to watch until you get to the end. And she kind of gives you the hope turn where it's like, but it's a good thing that we don't have that now. Right.
Yeah.
Like, because, you think about she started off the video talking about, she went to both Trump inaugurations. The most recent one, there was no protesting whatsoever.
Yeah.
The first one, you remember the next day after, or the day it was inaugurated, and the next day after, especially, was like the Pussy Hat Day, where there was like the, I guess up until now, the biggest single, day protest.
Right.
And that was inspiring back then when he first got elected and inaugurated. I was like, fuck yeah, all right, we're gonna fucking fight this shit, even if we're wearing stupid hats. And then nothing really, that didn't materialize into actual resistance. It just became a bunch of fucking empty slogans and fucking, like burns on the internet or whatever. Like, oh, you fucking ratioed them or whatever, which isn't actually anything. And I think what that did was that allowed a lot of people to think that, well, you don't have to really do anything. We've got these people that are fighting for us out there in the internet. You know what I mean? They're doing it, right? And then obviously it didn't work. Nothing happened because those people weren't really fighting for the people. They were fucking memeing and posting for their own fucking, self-interest.
Yeah.
Which serves the purpose.
That doesn't exist. That resistance network is fucking collapsed. And it's like, oh no, what do we do now? Well, now things can fucking happen organically.
Yeah.
Things can happen on, like networks can be formed among actual people who are fucking, understand the stakes and what need to be done to actually get out and organize and demonstrate and make shit happen. So,
which is why the No Kings event is so important, because that's what happened. They didn't organize. They use hashtags and memes and stuff.
Sure.
But they did the real work of building the movement off of the internet.
Right.
Because that kind of content is still out there, like that cathartic, like it's all over YouTube. You'll see like liberal channels going like, Trump gets burned by bad news,
Yeah.
And that serves the purpose of letting the viewer of diffusing revolutionary or rebellious energies in the viewer.
So I will say that I see the need for it just because we need to have algorithmic representation against their shit. But I just also want nobody to ever mistake that for being the thing you do. Is like, oh, you just got to watch a video and it gives you a momentary, chemical release of fuck yeah, that's great. They really burned Trump or whatever.
Yeah.
All you got to fucking do. Because no, of course it's not all you got to do. You just that is algorithmic, diversity of tactics. One of them has to be the algorithmic engagement. It has to happen to some degree, and some of them are better than it doing it with substance than others. But
I agree. But the point is that cannot be ever and will never be the foundation of a grassroots movement.
Nope.
It is necessary to the success of that movement, but it is not sufficient. And it is not the basis of it. The basis of it is grassroots organizing in the real world, face to face with people you actually have to be in the same room with, some of whom you will find annoying. But you got to put your differences aside and recognize that a united front is important. And decentralizing the movement the way that No Kings did let a lot of people in rural red state areas realize that they are not alone.
Yeah.
They are not
And to
the only
realize, that, to
anti-Trump
realize
person.
that they have power.
Right.
They don't have, they don't, you know, they not only should they not, but they can't just wait around for somebody else to you know, wield power and make something happen. Like we all have to.
Right. And that's it's one of that's the power of representation, right? Is now you have a bunch of like small town red state or purple state people who live in conservative areas who now know that there's more of them than they thought, and they can get along for hours at a time. And that's a huge thing, especially because unlike while the police tension is of course in the major cities, there's no small town cop showing up to rough up the protesters, you know, on the corner of Main Street there.
I'm sure that does happen. I'm pretty sure I've seen.
Yeah,
you're correct. It's not common.
It's not as common, no.
But I've seen at least one clip of that happening this time. But yeah, because generally in a smaller city, the police who show up to monitor the protest, there's a good chance they are going to personally know at least one person who is one of the protesters.
Right.
Like it might be their cousin or like their brother-in-law. It could even be a member of their direct nuclear family. It could be like another person in the community that they respect, like a pastor or something. And they're going to be, so the cop will be more reluctant to start cracking skulls in that situation.
Also, a lot of rural cops don't have riot training in the same way like urban polices have a riot force for that sort of policing.
Yeah.
Which is dangerous because that means they're more likely to pull a gun and start shooting.
True.
Yeah. Well, a lot of small town police departments have all the military gear, military surplus gear, but they don't get as regular training with it like the LAPD or the NYPD do.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
Literally.
Thank you. But like the numbers that it looks like we're inching up on 12 million people involved, which is almost exactly 3.5% of the American population.
And what is the relevance of 3.5%?
Well, we've talked about it on this stream before, on the FAPcast before, the work of Erica Chenoweth and her research partner, whose name I've forgotten. They've looked at the history of social change movements across the world over the last 100 years and found that nonviolent movements are more successful than violent ones, and that there's never been an authoritarian regime that could survive sustained political pressure from 3.5% of the population. So if you can get 3.5% of the population sustainably engaged, in other words, like showing up to protests every month or boycotting when it called upon, et cetera, whatever the action is, if you have that many people doing it regularly, the regime will fall. At least so far, in every example.
In every example so far, yeah.
And what they mean when they talk about it in their research is the regime, the authoritarian regime falls and is not replaced by another authoritarian regime from the opposite end of the ideological spectrum. It becomes or returns to being a democracy of some kind.
I'd like to answer this real quick. Yeah, I have a comment about that. Do you have a comment first? I'd like for you to comment on the literal kidnappings of American citizens, of staking out courthouses where people are going through the legal process to become citizens or to be here legally, and yet they're being detained and arrested and deported to countries that are not the country they're from. I'd like you to comment on that, and then I'll comment on your thing.
Also, robberies are not riots.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is they're doing the thing that I literally called out earlier and yesterday, where it's like, oh, so it's not a peaceful protest then, so that justifies all of the cops that get to beat people up and arrest them and shit. And it's
Yeah,
like,
does our friend have the comments on the assassination yesterday? On the assassination?
Yeah, do you have comments on that assassination?
Yeah. Let's be clear for President Obama, because I don't think he quite understands this. Property damage is not violence.
Sorry.
Period. If you see a car on fire and there was no human being in that car who was harmed, that is not violence. That is not rioting. So
if you don't care about the children who mined the cobalt in the Apple phones, then
sorry,
you shouldn't care about this.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the assassination in Minnesota yesterday. We should I think we should talk about that.
We should talk
the
about
bummer
that. Yes.
part that we had to get to eventually, which, you know, the right is doing their thing. So this is actually, thank you, President Obama, for showing up, because they're doing, it's a two-handed tactic that they're doing. And I was watching the Bulwarks channel about this earlier, and he's got pretty decent commentary and stuff. He's reading some of the people's takes about this, like the prominent right wingers, and like fucking what's the name, Charlie Kirk saying, Tim Walz needs to fucking resign right now, because a few years ago Tim Walz appointed this guy apparently to a bipartisan or not a political position, like not because he was a Republican or Democrat.
Yeah, it was an advisory board for some sort of like,
and yet they're taking that and running with that as like, oh, he was some kind of disaffected liberal Democrat who was actually mad at this Democrat lawmaker for voting with the GOP on something recently. I haven't checked into that to see if there's any truth to her having done that anyway, but nonetheless, it's not fucking a realistic thing. And they're like, well, he had all these flyers with No King's Day, and it's like he had pieces of paper that had the names of certain people on them that were on the left and Democrats.
Yeah.
And then he had No King's Day written there because it's pretty clear he was going to, try to go to these fucking events and kill some people.
I want to talk about what he was driving and how he was dressed.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
He approached the houses of the victims dressed as a police officer in from what, as far as we know so far, is either a squad car or a very good facsimile of one.
Yes.
And this guy has disappeared into the wind. And in a time when we have federal police running around wearing masks, not identifying themselves, not wearing uniforms, just grabbing people off the street, grabbing people outside of courthouses, how do we know this isn't a cop? We no longer have any uniform standards for police in this country. No requirement to identify yourself as a member of law enforcement. So if someone is presenting themselves as a member of law enforcement, would we just take their word in this case? If so, then a cop killed these people by the standards that the right has set for police in this country. Yeah, so these assassinations were specific and targeted because I believe
votes?
they've split control. Well, before this, there was a split assembly and a slight majority to the Dems in the state Senate, and now it is a split Senate and slight majority to the Republicans in the assembly.
And then when that's all it takes, man, obviously things are not good in general, but like,
yeah,
when you have such a starkly divided legislative branch, and then you have one side of the political spectrum of the duopoly of politics that we have, that literally fucking just leads everything with violent undertones, if not straight up overtones. That's how they speak about everything. And then at the same time, whenever this happens, they're like, oh, the peace. So what they're doing is they're trying to tie this to No King's Day.
Right.
And the left, because, for one, it deflects from anything, from them. But it also, they want everything we just talked about with No King's Day and how much potential it has. The right knows that too.
If I were one of these Charlie Kirk types who is a liar for Christ, I certainly would want to create a shitstorm, because I don't want anyone paying attention to Trump's fucking shit show.
Right.
Right. Like, yeah, I want to talk about how a leftist murdered a Democratic politician, despite there being no evidence that this guy, actually quite the opposite. There is considerable amounts of evidence that this guy was a hardcore conservative.
So there was an interview. There's been an interview with his lifelong friend that they've been friends since elementary school. The guy was like, yeah, he voted for Trump. He was a big Trump guy.
Yeah.
Even more than that, the guy was, at least the person they've identified as a suspect.
Yeah.
Innocent until proven guilty. We don't know if this actually is the guy or whatever. Sure. But the guy they're looking for.
I don't know that the AP's ever just swung on a name and biffed it before. So I think they've got a pretty good record.
Yeah.
Well, regardless.
Yeah. The guy they're looking for I'll just put this bluntly, should be described as a Christian terrorist.
Yeah.
The same way that we would describe the 9/11 attack as a Muslim terrorism. He was motivated in large part, not exclusively, but in large part by his specific interpretation of Christianity. This is a guy that went to the Democratic Republic of the Congo multiple times and fomented violence against LGBTQ people there, and helped radicalize the right-wing Christian militias that are rampaging through that country right now, and put that on his resume as something to brag about for his security business or whatever that he's got going on. And he, from what we can tell, is a follower of the theology of the Seven Mountains Mandate and the New Apostolic Reformation, which are two of the main animating religious movements in the MAGA sphere and Christian nationalism. So this was an act of, in large part, of religious terrorism.
Yeah.
And should be reported that way, although it will not be reported.
It will not be, other than here. And I know there are some news outlets that will, some smaller independent stuff that will report it that way, but you're not going to see anyone touch his faith with a 10-foot pole, because that isn't allowed in America.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. Lucifer Writing is right too. The guy was in Gaza during the Second Intifada doing this.
Oh my God.
Against Muslims. He says, the guy says he was there to preach the gospel to them and tell them that, get this, violence is not the answer. But he puts on, he runs a security company, which means he's a mercenary.
He's a mercenary.
He has mercenaries for hire. So he puts on his resume, he includes his time in Gaza as part of his security expertise. So he was probably up to some pretty violent shit there too.
Yep. So this guy is human debris.
It seems like we're probably going to find out some fucking crazy shit from this dude as time goes on.
Maybe.
Like
we'll see if the cops even try and catch him.
Oh.
They already seem more motivated to. They seem like they were more motivated to catch Luigi Mangione than they were this guy.
So here we got Grok coming in clutch again.
Oh, God.
The far left is murderously violent, Elon says. Statistically, right-wing extremist violence in the U.S. is more frequent and deadly than left-wing violence. Data from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, 1994 to 2020, shows right-wing incidents make up 57% of terrorist acts, 335 deaths, versus 25% for left-wing, 22 deaths. Yeah, man. This is easily found information.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody talking about the fact that it's kind of crazy that you never see this talked about on like major news or mainstream news. You never see this fact just discussed openly. And I think it's just like they're fucking terrified of the fucking religious right and the fucking guns that they own and are willing to use. They won't even talk about this shit out in the open. And we need to talk about
just
this.
in general, like the American establishment gives so much credence to Christianity as a default state of being that in the same way that anytime a Muslim does something, it's going to be associated with Islam. The opposite of truth Christianity is that because Christianity is the default, someone can't be doing something in the name of Christianity because not all Christians # do that.
Well, it's kind of like because white is the default, right?
Right, exactly. It's the same. Yeah. The same motivating factor is that, like, because you have a plethora of Christians who are not Christian nationalist terrorists like this guy, they go, well, this guy can't be a Christian because I'm a Christian. I would never do that.
Make no mistake, we have had a growing cancer of fucking white supremacist, white evangelical fucking violence, terrorism in this country for decades. And it really fucking started to congeal with, first of all, with the Branch Davidians and the Waco siege that, killed lots of people because the FBI fucked up. And then from there, that radicalized people like Tim McVeigh, who went on to blow up the Alfred R. Murrah building in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And
people don't talk about how he was a Christian terrorist. That gets tossed under the rug immediately.
And he had a fucking copy of Turner Diaries on him.
Yep.
And not to mention all the sustained campaign of anti-abortion violence.
Yeah.
Which personally touched me, because in the 90s, I was an escort at a women's health clinic in my hometown between two separate murders of doctors. Like the first murder galvanized a lot of people in the community to come out and volunteer and help, and I was one of them. And then the second murder is the one that made me stop, because I was supposed to be there that day and I called in sick, and the guy that replaced me got killed.
Oh, fuck.
So I had survivor's guilt about that for a long time. But that campaign of violence against like women's health clinics has been going on since the 1980s.
Yeah, abortion clinic bombings and abortion doctor assassinations are frighteningly common in the United States.
Yeah, and
Here's the
because
fucking truth, man, there's no such thing as a lone wolf or a lone fucking actor or whatever. They may be acting alone without any kind of coordinated plans involved with any specific network, but the ideology that they are fucking murdering for is very specific and comes from very specific sources.
Right.
Right.
And because the federal government and the media and apparatus never took the religious motivations of like Timothy McVeigh seriously, we now have a bunch of Timothy McVeighs running the government.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yep.
Thanks, Clinton.
Timothy McVeigh taught them that, look, man, if you want to do something good, but do the long game instead of the short game, right? And that's exactly how he said. We have fucking Stephen Miller, who is essentially just Tim McVeigh, who's too much of a fucking little bitch to even be in the military, and a sniveling little fucking piece of shit Nazi vampire mother. All right, sorry.
Look,
that is an insult
don't
to
insult
vampires.
vampires that way.
Yeah,
sorry.
don't demean vampires that way.
Grima worm tongue motherfucker over here.
Yeah,
that's better.
I mean, Captain America reminded us that not all vampires are bad, right?
That's true.
But all Nazis are.
Yeah.
I've met vampires who were pretty good people. They didn't hurt anybody. They didn't ask to be what they are. Nazis. Yeah.
And if you're a Nazi listening to this, hi, welcome. If you don't like the fact that we're like Nazis are bad people, and all Nazis are bad, there's a thing you can do to address that issue. You can stop being a Nazi.
Oh no, sorry. I thought okay.
Or you can follow your leader.
Follow the original, or not the original. Yeah, the original.
That's well, you could do that too, because Mussolini
trying to
went
delete
out
yourself.
in a
You
fun
don't even
way.
fucking care anymore. Just fucking go, man. Like, sorry. On that note, check this out.
I don't care, bro. You ran into the wrong person. Stop fucking with me. Stop talking to me. Which way? Stop talking to me, bro. Go sit down. You got that man. Oh, you know where I'm from? Do I look like I give a fuck? I mean, something, bro. I don't give a fuck. You in South. Remember that. Fuck. What are you trying to threaten me? No one's threatening you. Just leave me the fuck alone. What's wrong with you, bro? They said, don't push me out of the way. Then don't run into me. Well, I'm simple as that. Wipe the fucking nose off, bro. I did. I really did. Come on, my life. I did. I dare you, bro. Come here and I'll wipe your fucking nose off. I dare you. Come on now. Let's go. Let's go. I dare you. I love you, bro. Let's go now. Oh, listen. Afro man. Come. Yo, John, what are you bossy? There's no need for it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. What? Swing at me. I dare you. I dare you. Swing at me. Swing at me. Are you fucking dumb? I'm fucking dumb. Don't relax.
We're near 10 mark here. We're cool.
I think he just killed that man.
He knocked him the fuck out.
He called him. So they sound like they were like maybe British or South African or something. I don't know.
Yeah, some sort of
Yeah, I could barely make out what the white guy was saying, but
I
I
know
could
the
tell.
white guy.
once-
The thing that he said that really set him off. After several times that the dude was like, "Leave me alone, please go away. No, you're
Right.
crazy. Go away, please." And the guy kept
Yeah.
at it. And then he called him Afro Man.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah. And I could tell that the white guy has absolutely no fight training whatsoever, just
None.
from his stance and the way he moved his hands. Whereas the other guy, I didn't get a good look, but the other guy knows how to throw a punch.
He at least he has been in some scraps. Also, he knows how to stand on a subway,
Yeah.
where the other guy was holding onto the bar and had to brace himself
Right.
against
Well,
the train.
if you can stand on a subway, a moving train without holding on to anything, you've already got a solid foundation for throwing a punch.
It's true.
These New Yorkers have funny accents.
He was a gammon, so yeah.
Oh God,
that's one of my favorite words, and I think we
What is
should
that?
bring it. Gammon is a British insult, I believe, that is applied to red-faced white men, basically calling them a ham.
yeah,
Okay.
they're pig people.
Calling them a side of ham. So,
You know who does have fight training?
Hey, buddy, eyes up here.
I'm looking
I just need to see that like 6 times a day.
baby.
Oh yeah, there we go. What a good boy.
Yeah, I have to see that like 6 times a day, or I won't. I'm not feeling okay.
Bro,
you know?
I am so excited for that movie. This is the most comic book looking Superman movie I've ever seen.
It looks great.
Right into my veins, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
It looks like it's going to add some stuff to the lore a little bit. So, like, seemingly, this version of Superman, when he uses the shit out of his heat vision, his face gets a little burned up,
A little crispy. They did
Yeah.
that in the Supergirl show, where like there would be, if she used it for a while, it would be like, and her eyes would like have something going on for a minute.
Huh. Well, do we want to move on to see what is the head of our all of our intelligence agencies? You know, she's got to be pretty smart and her finger on the pulse of what's important in the world, right? As far as global affairs.
That's what we would hope. Someone
That's what we would hope so. I'm sure it's not the case.
Also, when she drops a video on social media, it's just a few minutes long, and she's got a very serious message. I guess we should really take heed and listen.
I recently
before we
visited
play it-
Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago.
Who did that?
It's hard for me to find the words to express what I saw, the stories that I heard, the haunting sadness that still remains. This is an experience that will stay with me forever. This attack obliterated the city, killed over 300,000 people, many dying instantly while
Nobody tell her about Nagasaki.
No, nobody.
others died from severe burns, injuries, radiation sickness, and cancer that set in the following months and years. Nagasaki suffered the same fate. Homes, schools, families, all gone in a flash. The survivors, the hibakusha.
This is just a mural, and they're just like, oh, shaky cam down the mural. That's fun.
Yeah.
Can you pull up what I just shared? Because I think I know where she's getting her hairstyles from, Tulsi Gabbard. I think I found like what she's inspired by.
I was always thought it was Rogue.
Pop this up. Can you pop that up there, Dane?
I don't see what you shared. Where you shared it.
Okay. Let me. All right. I have to.
I don't see that you shared anything either.
Not in Discord.
I have to. No, it's on the StreamYard down below in the tabs. It's
down below in the tab. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to pop that up
yeah.
as soon as I saw her hair.
Yeah. They had to have done that on purpose. Like, I don't know.
No, because that character in the comics had the streak of white,
like
had the skunk stripe too.
Huh.
So it's just like sketchy intelligence asset and sketchy intelligence asset. It's just like life imitating art, right?
Once you see the rest of this video and we talk about what the reason for it, I think we'll see there's a very big difference between these two women.
Okay. And it's not just
Kusha.
competency.
They carried the pain of extreme burns, radiation sickness, and loss for decades.
So
Survivors of this attack were asked to put in painting.
Right, like you're probably asking what? Okay, all of this, yeah, this is all legit, man. Like I feel it. These images are horrible, but I feel like if you're going to show these, you need to have a pretty solid reason to, like, you know, throw this on people, right? Like what is the director of our intelligence agencies doing this for? All right, just keep that in mind.
And drawings their own memories and how they felt and what they saw, and those paintings and the suffering that they conveyed, the pain and the sense of loss were almost more powerful than the photos themselves. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction on Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima had a yield of just 15 kilotons of TNT, whereas today's nuclear warheads range in size from 100 kilotons to over 1 megaton. A single nuclear weapon today could kill millions in just minutes. Just one of these nuclear bombs would vaporize everything at its core: people, buildings, life itself.
They're doing the Dark Knight thing where they take the razor blade along with the cello string. Holy shit.
Shockwave would crush structures miles away, killing and maiming countless people. And then comes the fallout. Radioactive poison spreading through the air, water, and soil, condemning survivors to agonizing deaths or lifelong suffering. A nuclear winter could follow, with smoke and ash completely blocking the sun, plunging the world into darkness and cold, killing crops and starving.
You probably just wanted to give us a science lesson or something, right?
Billions. Acid rain would scar the earth, wiping out entire ecosystems. This isn't some made-up science fiction story. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing
Is she saying
now.
all
Because
this
as we
comes from
stand
one
here
bomb?
today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before,
what?
Political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers.
Kettle?
Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
Can you pause it?
It's over.
That's it.
Shared by the New York Post. Does anybody want to take a guess what that's really about? I mean,
Okay.
there's no evidence of what it's really about, but it's pretty fucking clear.
So she's looking for justifications to attack, for the U.S. to involve itself in Israel's war with Iran.
No, well, from what I understand, from all I can tell, and I'm looking back at whenever we did the episode about her, I think she's just doing Putin propaganda.
Because the Russian government doesn't control the second largest stock of nuclear weapons in the world. So
it's Putin through her saying, you guys need to chill out because you know where this might lead. We have to press that button.
Oh, it's back to Putin saying, because Putin has threatened to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine.
Right. It's saying that Ukraine is manipulating the nuclear powers into facing each other down.
It's pressure against NATO, 100%.
Yeah.
And like, this is the director of our intelligence agencies.
Yeah.
That is so fucked up. It's hard to even process.
Well, it's because the regime can't find competent people to run things. And so you have a bunch of people and the heads of these departments and the heads of these agencies who think 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, to be fair, her propaganda there could apply to multiple conflicts going on right now.
But I think it's pretty clear that she's in Russia. Like, she's fucking got something going on with Russia. I don't know.
Yeah. She's also part of a cult. This isn't really talked about very much.
No, we did the deep dive, buddy.
We've talked about her cult.
Okay.
But we should go over it again.
She was shown, her people in her cult are shown pornography as children, straight pornography. And I think, what do they show them? Yeah, they showed them straight pornography to show them that that's the way to do it. Gay sex is bad. Like, that's how homophobic they are.
It's a very homophobic cult.
Mm-hmm.
Even when she was a Democrat, because of her religion, she was one of the only Democrats in Hawaii to be like vocally anti-LGBTQ.
And she definitely ran that fucking line until she couldn't run it anymore, which was after Bernie, was defeated in 2020. And then it was like, well, all right, I'm going on Fox News and fucking just like blatantly, did a fucking heel turn as if anybody. I'll admit there was about 2-3 days during, I guess, prior to 2020, 2019 or so, where I was looking into her and didn't look deep enough, but I was like, oh, you know what? She seems to make some sense and she's kind of hot.
Yeah.
That's how they get you, the hot ones.
Yeah,
That's why you shouldn't trust hot people.
I mean, at the time, she was sounding like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, she was cribbing a lot of his talking points.
Yeah. But what she just said in this video could and probably does apply to multiple things. So I think it's applying to Ukraine most directly. But it's also like talking sly about Iran versus Israel, maybe India versus Pakistan.
Probably.
Because she's kind of a Hindu nationalist.
Right.
So
she's certainly a member of a Hindu nationalist cult, even if she is not, doesn't identify that way.
So she's she's Islamophobic.
Right.
I was trying to add an adjective there, but my tongue didn't work. But basically she's saying all of these small fry evil Muslims are manipulating the United States and Russia into a nuclear confrontation, and they better stop or Russia's going to have no choice.
Yeah, Russia does have a choice. Kind of like with the Nazis, where the Nazis can just choose to stop being Nazis. The Russians could stop doing a war in Ukraine whenever they want.
I mean, like every nuclear power could just dismantle all their nuclear weapons if they wanted to.
Right.
But, you know.
The problem with if you try to have Superman do that is that it would actually be a secret plot by Lex Luthor to create a supervillain.
Nuclear Man.
Nuclear Man, yes.
Destroy Superman. That's all I remember from that movie. That and like Superman's speech at the UN.
Yep.
Which I think, okay, so that reminds me, like the new Superman movie looks like it's going to do something very similar to Superman 4 by having Superman get involved in actual politics.
Well, but will it be actual countries or will it be more like you know, how Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad did, where it was like a fake fictional country but a very real world dynamic that has happened.
Yeah, it's gonna be that. It's gonna be a fake country.
Yeah,
we already know the countries, like
or whatever.
Moravia and some other country, I forget, but they are coded as Israel and Palestine visually if you look at the trailer. And so they're going to kind of be talking about that indirectly.
So here's this is fun, man. So in the summer of 2015, 3 Syrian girls who had narrowly survived an airstrike some weeks earlier stood before Tulsi Gabbard with horrific burns all over their bodies. Remember how she's talking about how burns are really bad?
Yeah.
Well, not in this case. Gabbard, then a U.S. Congresswoman on a visit to the Syria-Turkey border as part of her duties for Foreign Affairs Committee, had a question. How do you know it was Bashar al-Assad or Russia that bombed you and not ISIS? It was revealing insight into Gabbard's conspiratorial views and conflict, and it shocked Mustafa into silence. He knew, as even the young children did, that ISIS did not have jets to launch airstrikes.
Right.
It was such an absurd question that he chose not to translate it because he didn't want to upset the girls, the eldest of whom was 12. She asked 3 fucking recently horrifically burned victims of an airstrike. Hey, fuck off with this fucking Russia shit. It was probably ISIS, right? You dumb bitch.
Please cuddle with an active wood chipper, Tulsi Gabbard.
See you next Tuesday.
Oh my God.
From that point on, I'm sorry to say it was inaccurate in my translations of anything she said. Mustafa told the Independent. It was more like, how do I get these girls away from this devil? Even before Gabbard left the Democratic Party, ingratiated herself with Donald Trump and secured his nomination to become Director of National Intelligence, she was known as a prolific peddler of Russian propaganda. In almost every foreign conflict in which Russia had a hand, Gabbard backed Moscow and railed against the U.S. Her past promotion of Kremlin propaganda has provoked significant opposition on both sides of the aisle to her nomination. Wow, both sides of the aisle, crazy. Her journey from anti-war Democrat to Moscow-friendly MAGA warrior began in Syria. The devastating conflict was sparked by pro-democracy uprisings in 2011, which were brutally crushed by the Assad regime. It descended into a complex web of factions that drew extremist Islamists from all around the world and global powers into the fray. So, Gabby, veteran of Iraq War, viewed it all as a regime change war fueled by the West and aimed at removing the dictator from power. She saw Assad and Russia, when it entered the conflict, as legitimate defenders of the state against an extremist uprising. That's kind of backwards, lady.
I understand geopolitics is hard, especially when it comes to like, well, you have an authoritarian regime, a democratic uprising, and a religious terrorist organization. Like that can create some complicated situations, but your job is to comprehend and manage those.
Literally using never forget 9/11 to be like, Obama wouldn't bomb Al Qaeda in Syria. Putin did though. What a fucking crazy person.
We launched drones into Syria.
We've killed plenty of brown. She loves killing brown people.
We were for a while, amazingly so, backing Rojava in that conflict. That also once called Kurdistan. It's it's an anarchist network of communities that straddles the border between Iran, Iraq, and Syria, and parts of Turkey. That is extremely left wing. Like it is probably the most left wing militia movement or going on right now. And we were backing them against ISIS.
Yeah.
And they were also against the Syrian government.
Yeah.
And then Tulsi Gabbard comes along and inserts herself into this, for, I guess, reasons. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because all three of these factions are heavily Muslim. So I don't know how she's deciding which Muslim she hates more.
Well, because what it says here, this is a Charles Lister, senior fellow at the Middle East Institute, who testified twice on Syria to the House of Foreign Affairs when Gabbard was a member, spent years debunking her various conspiracy theories. Her consistent denial of the Syrian regime's crimes is so wildly fringe that her potential appointment as DNI is genuinely alarming. Her views appear to be driven by a strange fusion of America First isolationism and a belief in the value of autocratic and secular leaders in confronting extremism, which, kind of seems like an accurate analysis considering, she's all up Orange Man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about
that's basically Cold War realpolitik right there.
I think what this kind of person does is they go, all right, they're super cynical. So I think what they do, they look to the farther, who knows how far in the future they see this happening, but basically it's going to end up that Russia and the US are going to be, the ones who come out on top. And I just need to, I don't know. It's hard to really get in the head of somebody like this. I don't think she's actually crazy. I think she knows exactly what she's doing.
I think she's an ideologue, right? She knows what she's doing. She's a political operator, but she is an ideologue, and that comes first in her rationale.
Well, I mean, that description of American isolationism combined with what was that? A belief in
the value of autocratic and secular leaders in confronting extremism.
Yeah, that was just the United States posture during the Cold War.
Yeah,
that's why the reason there's so many secular dictators all over the Middle East is because the U.S. backed a lot of them against Russia, right? The Soviet Union, and then like the Soviet Union also backed a lot of secular dictators in the Middle East, like in Syria. Syria was one of them. And then the U.S. started promoting religious groups as a counterpart, as a opposition to communism, one of which became Al Qaeda.
Yep.
And Israel helped us do that too. They bolstered Hamas and Hezbollah because they wanted to undermine the PLO, which was a secular left-leaning, not really leftist, organization backed by the Soviet Union. So she appears to just be applying a Cold War lens to a situation where those political relations no longer apply.
Right, which tracks with her cult leader, because her cult leader.
Well, so I think her first allegiances, her first deep ties are to Modi.
Yeah,
there's, I can look that up too, but she's met with Modi several times. She's also praised him and defended him. I don't know. Like it looks like it could even be possible that she's been a plant since the very beginning of her fucking career. I don't know if that's the case, but it could be.
Yeah. I think it's obvious that her cult groomed her to be a political operative.
It did, yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. She was raised in such a way that she sees herself as a tool that doesn't mind, abandoning empathy or even reason to accomplish a goal or whatever, which is, I think what that cult did to her.
I think her reason is cult centered. Like that's her, like her reasoning doesn't advance that ideology she's internalized.
Right. Like, so, but it's still unclear to me how much of what she's doing now is the cult stuff or just things she has developed on her own to supplement that.
That's fair.
But it doesn't matter. But
I'm very curious because like the US, I forget if it was during the Trump administration. I want to say it was during the Trump administration, but it may have been the early Biden administration where we kind of abandoned the Kurds to their fate.
Yep. As we've done multiple times.
As we've done to them before. And we've spent like the Bush 1, Bush 2, and Obama spent a lot of resources on trying to advance their causes because it was politically expedient for us. And if we were going to side with Israel in their war with Iran, that would have been a potential ally. We'll now no longer have the one. Now I'm curious about the Israeli position on the Kurds, because the Kurds are not like they're Muslim majority, but like the Kurds aren't. They're religiously cosmopolitan. They are.
Yeah. Well, Rojava, the Rojava project, they stopped calling it Kurdistan because the leadership, although the leadership of the movement was originally mostly Kurds, they are multi-ethnic.
Mm-hmm.
The geographical territory they control is multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and their governing political philosophy is secular.
Yeah.
Even though many of them are practicing Muslims, the political philosophy they follow is like basically anarcho-communism.
Right.
So,
thanks, Sean. Yeah, they were abandoned by Trump by the behest of Turkey.
They've been abandoned by the U.S. multiple times and supported by the U.S. multiple times. In fact, it's an interesting footnote in history that one of the reasons that a lot of leftists in the West around the end of the 90s and into the early 2000s, such as Christopher Hitchens, supported the Iraq War is because they were standing in solidarity with the Kurds, who said, the leaders of the Kurdish revolution said, we are siding with the United States in this conflict because it's in our political interest to do so.
Right.
And then when the U.S. started fucking them over, a lot of the socialist support for the war in Iraq disappeared. But Hitchens clung on, because he's just a contrarian.
Right.
But,
and then he died.
Yeah. But the Kurds have been abandoned by the West and supported by the West multiple times.
Yeah.
They obviously do what's in their interest to protect their community.
Right.
But they are stalwart opponents of ISIS and of Islamic fundamentalism of that strain, which has put them at odds with practically every regime in the region.
Because it's all autocrats put in by imperial powers.
So this this sums up at the end here by saying this is Pfeiffer, what's his first name? Pfeiffer is a U.S. intelligence veteran, 3 decades, who ran the White House Situation Room and served as chief of staff to CIA Director Michael Hayden. Told the Independent that talks about her experience not being anything close to what all prior people to hold this role have had.
Sure.
So Gabber may have left the Syrian conflict behind, but Mustafa still works with its victims every day, and he believes the connection between her views on Syria and Ukraine is clear. What happened in Syria is what allowed the Russians to feel they could do this very same in Ukraine. And what she is doing with Ukraine shows that it goes beyond her maybe misunderstanding one conflict. She is hook, line, and sinker a Russian puppet.
It's also worth pointing out that her job in the, I forget what branch of the military she was a reserve officer for. I think it's the Army.
I think so, yeah.
But her job was PSYOPs.
Right.
So, which means, for those who don't know, that means psychological operations, which means like brainwashing and propaganda.
And misinformation in order to achieve goals.
Yeah.
Like being deceptive and just generally lying and lying or telling the truth, whatever's convenient.
Right.
To goal.
And I, from a purely pragmatic point of view, I can see why that skill set would be useful to somebody who's in charge of our intelligence apparatus. But I hate to say this, it would be better served to have that skill set in the hands of someone who is not also a cult member.
Right.
Right. Or an ideologue. Like, I'd rather have a person with no ideology with that skill set running the intelligence services rather than a person with that skill set who also has a bizarro religious ideology motivating them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ideally, we would have neither, but if I had to choose, which we do because it's the real world, I would choose
the real world.
first one.
You remember how you guys remember how before the election we were kind of doing episodes about the people that were kind of around and supporting Trump and then we're going to be in the cabinet potentially and stuff like that. We might need to revisit that now sometime soon. I mean,
yeah. Probably worth doing an episode on Pete Hegseth at this point. Boy, howdy.
Could be like Kennedy's Profiles in Courage, but we'll call it Profiles in something. Come up with some opposite name.
Yeah, Profiles in Cowardice.
But they're not. I'm not sure I would call all of them cowards. They are cynics. You never know if someone's a coward until
cronyism.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because you never really know if someone is a coward until they're put under pressure.
True.
Oh, that's interesting.
Profiles in cronyism. Because
So
that is
Tulsi Gabbard's ex-aides, her own former subordinates, have said that she has regularly consumes Russian state media.
Mm-hmm.
That
which obviously seems kind of clear, I guess, but like it's just to have someone actually confirm that.
Right.
But again, there's plausible deniability there because someone with her skill set and her position in the government would need to be doing that anyway.
Right.
To monitor
Except for it would be fine if she was not also just parroting the fucking
right. Exactly. Like that's her job, but also it's her job to counter it.
Right. That's her plausible deniability answer. Like when she goes on Fox News or whatever, and if on the off chance someone in that venue asks her, "Hey, what's this? We hear about the left accusing you of being a Russian puppet because you watch Russian media all the time." She can answer, "Well, I am the director of national intelligence. I kind of have to know what's going on in our enemy's media. So of course I watch Russian media all the time."
Right. And that's the softball question, because if a proper journalist were to ask a version of that question, it would be, so it seems like your positions mirror those or match those of Russian state media. And it's been reported that you consume a lot of Russian state media. Is it possible that your viewing of that over time has influenced your beliefs and behavior?
That would be the opening question. And then
that'd be the opening question.
Like
we're going to go on from there.
Yeah, would ask follow-up questions with receipts, like from the article Dane just read. Like they could say, "Well, your former aides say so and so,"
Right. And
so apparently,
don't hold your breath, folks.
It was reported when she was officially confirmed that a certain head of state of Russia was gleeful.
Oh yeah.
So
if I were Putin, I'd be popping the champagne. The head of American intelligence is my fucking stooge.
So I mean, look, and this goes beyond. Like, here's there's Putin, there's al-Assad, there's Modi, and then there's Egypt's al-Sisi. So she has like full throat fucking just like defended or praised every single one of those, they're all just authoritarians. Crazy. All right. Well.
Yeah.
Fun times. Our country's doing great.
Yeah.
We're gonna be in it to win it. But we gotta be in it to win it. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be uphill and it's gonna suck.
Right.
But also it might be a lot of fun.
Yes, the No Kings event was the beginning of or potentially the beginning of something truly hopeful. We just have to be clear that this is my criticism of the No Kings thing, at least so far, is we haven't laid out what is the goal of the movement.
Right.
Right now, we're just getting everybody excited and
Well, I mean, then that's I think that we're at that stage where it's everything. I don't think
Yeah,
they should
and
be
that's
doing that yet.
important.
Like, we needed
Yeah.
to show ourselves and everyone else that this could be done. That there's a will for it. Because I mean, honestly, I'd started to feel like enough people had given up that nothing like this could happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like this is it's hope pilling a little bit. To be
Yeah.
like, oh no, people have been feeling the same way we have. And you know, what the fuck are we supposed to do? And then someone gives a pretty clear option to like, here's the thing you can do on this day, and it's you know, here's what would achieve, as in like, and I think it's pretty clear we did achieve. You know, not me, I didn't literally go out anywhere, but I promoted the fucking thing. But like, you know, we fucking overwhelmed his stupid birthday bullshit. That's insane and awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's a microcosm of what we should think of as what we can accomplish in the long run.
I also think that it's important to remember that like several smaller things led up to this. There were the anti-Tesla protests that happened earlier this year throughout the winter and early spring. You've had Black community organizers across the country organizing boycotts of Target that have cost them $1.5 and counting billion, all through local community organizing, right? And so that those same people are also involved in spreading a word about the No Kings protests and the 50-51 movement, shows that the foundational organizations of this nascent movement are at least socially cognizant that our system lends itself towards autocracy and oligarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we want a No Kings movement,
we need a No Kings country.
We need a whole, like, we have to, the power structures that enable a king also have to go.
Fucking king-proof this system.
Right.
Right. And so here's the problem, though.
Right.
Ultimately, I don't think a lot of the leaders of this movement have gotten here yet, and they may never get here, and maybe I'm wrong. But ultimately, what this has to mean is the complete removal of the Trump administration from power without an election. We can't hinge this on elections because they're gonna rat fuck the system.
Fuck it up. Yeah.
And it has to be done in a way that does not separate Trump from the Republican Party.
Right. You need to be an anti-Republican movement.
Yeah.
And that is going to take some doing.
Yes. Because the way the Democrats have been strategizing with Trump for like 12 years now is trying to paint him as like a pariah or an exception from
he's
my
an
honorable
aberration.
friends across the aisle. When he is,
I do feel like people have been doing better this time than the first time, as being like, you know, he is the party. The party is him. They've also done a great job. They've done a favor for us by just completely going all up in his ass this time.
Yeah. But like the Republicans have already done shit like the SAVE Act.
Yeah.
Which is going to make it really hard to win, for Democrats to win any election going forward.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, the SAVE Act was passed in Congress, and I believe Trump signed it into law. And what it establishes is that you have to, your voter registration has to have your same last name on it that is on your birth certificate, which means a majority of married women will have their votes challenged.
Yeah.
If you are trans and you changed your name, your votes will be challenged.
Yeah.
And so forth. And like the Democrats have not talked about this at all.
No.
So we're going to have to get there with this movement and get people on the same page to understand that it's not just Trump who is the problem. Trump is the symptom of the problem. And No Kings means a complete overhaul of our entire political system.
So the law has not passed the Senate yet.
It has not.
So the only thing, I mean, I agree with you 100%. The thing that's going to be really tricky is that once the GOP sees the writing on the wall, they're going to fucking chew their leg off to get away from this motherfucker.
But that's
right.
That's what we want. We want the financiers of the GOP to gnaw their legs off and run the fuck away. what would be the problem is if they double down. And I think with how the media apparatuses in this country have been behaving, my worry is that they have already doubled down in support of the regime. Either because Trump is good for ratings, or because they're believers in this autocracy.
Right. What we're going to need is a movement that's, and this is borne out again in Erica Chenoweth's work, like is a movement that is large and sustained enough that members of the institutions like the press and the military and the intelligence services and the police begin to defect from the regime, which is what has happened in most successful revolutions and things of this type. And when those people do that, they should be welcomed as part of the United Front. But there still has to be accountability.
Right.
And where I think the Democrats have not quite gotten to yet as a party is understanding that Trump is an avatar of the Republican base. He's not an aberration.
No.
And simply removing him is going to still leave like J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard and all of these other ghouls exactly where they are. And all of those people need to be removed.
The one thing, the fucking, what is it? The thing in the Death Star. What is it? The one thing that you hit.
The exhaust port.
The exhaust port in the Death Star is that, and this is the reason that they cling to Trump, and it took them a long time to cling to him so much, is because they haven't been able to appeal to a large enough base to win, and they've got this fucking cult leader, and that's what he is. It's a fucking cult. And he is the fucking leader of it. There's not somebody else that can just step in and easily take his place and like control the fucking masses the way that he does. So I mean, it's weird because yes, they are one and the same. At the same time, he is just a symptom of it. Yes, that's true. He's not anything special in regards to like what Republicans want to do or whatever. But he is, just by nature of being who the fuck he is, the id of the Republicans. And yeah.
He sold himself on the campaign trail in 2016 as a maverick against the Republican Party, which he is not, but he sold himself as that.
Right.
And the Democrats played into that by pretending that he was, and like they painted him as like, oh, he's this maverick who's going to upset the entire system. We have to stop him.
When when you, the Democratic Party, control the White House, which people think is the only lever of power, it was a terrible idea.
And this is why,
by the way, that came in and he goes, hey, you guys got all these red buttons that you want to push, but you don't push them. Why not? And they're like, no, because you can't push the red buttons. And he's like, push.
Yeah. And this, by the way, is why the Taco Trump meme is bad and stupid, because you do not want to dare him to do the things he said he was going to do.
Right.
And that's the way that the Democrats, especially Chuck Schumer, have been using the TACO, which is for those who don't know, it's an acronym for Trump always chickens out. So they keep calling him Taco when they're talking about like things that he shouldn't be doing anyway, things that we don't want him to do. So but they'll say he always chickens out from all of his positions, which is just daring him to go further.
It feels desperate. It feels like you're like, oh, we can get him on hypocrisy here. And it's like,
it's a repackaging of
that. What's that going to do? He's a hypocrite all the fucking time. It doesn't do anything.
So do you know where the Taco abbreviation comes from? Like what group of people originated that?
I think it was Wall Street investors who were talking about the tariffs.
Yes, it was investors who were betting against the tariffs.
Yeah.
Because he chickened out, right? So these are people who, by and large, voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Who are using his financial ineptitude to enrich themselves. Maybe we shouldn't be using their language.
Well, that just circles us right back to where we started talking about the things today with the resistance movement. It's the same exact kind of fucking, not even in this case, not even just pointless and fruitless, but like actually actively benefits them.
Yeah.
We got to be smarter than that, man. We got to fucking be smarter than that. We have to stop. And this is something I've had a problem with chud people that talk about chuds on YouTube and stuff for the whole time that I've done this. Not like a huge problem. And I recognize the need to do that to reach certain people, but like what I'm talking about is people that are like, oh, why is he saying this crazy thing or whatever? And it's like, we know why they say the crazy thing. We know why they're doing this. They're saying, like Charlie Kirk saying, oh, Tim Walz needs to resign, and he's definitely involved with this fucking, assassination plot or whatever. It's like Tim Miller on the Bulwark was like, well, that's crazy, brainworms. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not brainworms. It's very fucking specifically chosen strategy in the propaganda war. Like, stop fucking treating it like it's something. Oh, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? That's crazy. No, it's fucking smart.
Are you too familiar with the origins of the Bulwark?
Yeah.
Dane, are you? Do you know about how they came to be?
I don't think so.
Okay, so they are a bunch of former Republicans, were the founders of the Bulwark, who were the people in the Republican Party who were like, well, wait a minute, hold on.
Oh, wait, yeah, I know Tim Miller used to work for Jeb Bush. Yeah.
Yeah, and
they still are Republicans.
They still are Republicans, but they bought the lie that Trump was a maverick and opposed Trump because he thinks that he is a stain on the Republican Party.
Yeah, they think he's too crass because he violates norms all the time, but they would not. Most of them are neocons, and were it not for the fact that Trump is in the White House, most of them would not object to any of the policies that are being put forward by the Republican Party right now.
I don't know. I guess maybe I'm kind of naive, but I feel like just a little bit. I feel like Tim Miller maybe has grown on.
Maybe
some of them have. Yeah, a lot of them have moved left. But it's important to remember that when they engage in some of this focusing on Trump, it's because ideologically they do find Trump to be an aberration to what they think of as Republican politics, which, I mean, we saw this election is pretty much all the proof you need that no, the Republican base is behind Trump's nonsense. He is not the aberration. He is the norm.
Trump is the logical end of the Tea Party movement.
Right.
And the Tea Party movement was astroturfed largely, but it tapped into real resentments in the Republican base.
Yeah.
And ideally, the No Kings movement, which is at least 10 times bigger at the start than the Tea Party was, should be the Democratic equivalent of the Tea Party. It should be a movement that takes over the Democratic Party,
right,
and puts an actual progressive, not just at the top of the ticket, but all the way down in every office, at every local, state, and federal level, everywhere for generations to come. That's what should happen.
School board on up.
Yeah, and we can still make that happen. It's not a guarantee, but there's a much bigger public support base for that going forward than the Tea Party ever had.
Right. What the Tea Party had going for it is the media attention that was paid to it. And we are not seeing that as much with the No Kings movement. But on the flip side, it's a bigger movement and more people know about it, and word of mouth is much stronger about it.
And alternative media and independent media like the internet and social media are a thing now. So people can watch the legacy media report on the assassination in Minnesota and on Trump's military parade and ignore No Kings. They can see that happening on ABC, CBS, CNN, etc. And then they look at their phone and they see thousands and thousands of people showing pictures of millions of folks showing up to these things, and they go, what's going on here? Somebody's lying to me.
Well, or just like people at work, you talking to your coworkers. Oh, where were you? What'd you do this weekend? Oh, I was downtown Saturday at the No Kings rally. That's something the internet can't provide as an organizational tool and an information tool. Is we as humans are prone to believing something that is in front of our face, unless we're heavily indoctrinated.
Yeah. And so there's an opportunity here for No Kings to do what the Tea Party did to the Republicans, which is drive a wedge into the divisions between the institution and the base.
Yeah.
Like there are members of the Democratic Party right now, like AOC, Zoran Mamdani, Jasmine Crockett, the rest of the squad, who should be running the show.
Right.
But they're not, because the institutionalists who are all beholden to the same billionaires as Trump is are running, are, you know, still in charge of the party. And they all think that it's their turn to be in charge because they've been there for, you know, since the younger Dryas, you know, and they and that was a paleontology reference.
It's a paleontology joke. It's fucking killing me.
They've been there since the Stone Age, right? And they think that because they're old, it's their turn now, which is why we get people with cancer, terminal cancer, being elevated above AOC to be the ranking member on, you know, the oversight committee, that kind of shit. That needs to stop, and it needs to stop real fast. And no kings is the pathway forward. Is Dane still here?
I don't know.
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I was reading something. My bad.
Oh, that's okay. I wanna tag this one as our resident queer. Sean asks, log cabin Republicans. Log cabin Republicans are rich gay men who are afraid that their dirty fellow queers will take all their money if they're given any political power.
In other words,
Roo.
Yeah. Joe Walsh.
Do we have a Quisling of the week?
There's always Quislings.
I mean, you know, we could go with Tulsi, but
I mean, you're not wrong. Tulsi Gabbard is she was a Democrat, got started as a Democrat, switched to MAGA when it was politically advantageous for her to advance her weird beliefs. Yeah, she's Quisling of the week.
Sure.
Motion passes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I it's hard for me to, I don't know. I'm gonna look into some fucking Tim Miller, man, because that's what I was reading about a second ago, and it's kind of interesting. I haven't really watched a lot of his content at all, but the little bit I've seen, I've been like, hey, he's fine, you know. But like knowing his history and stuff like that, as Taylor Lorenz pointed out in her video, it's like I'm kind of determined to figure out if he's somebody who sincerely like had a change in his politics or ideology or whether it was just like a thing of convenience or what. So I'm gonna be looking into that.
So there was
it's something to be aware of for sure. I'm suspicious of him, but the thing is, we're in a fight now where we have to have a united front. We have to side with Stalin to stop Hitler.
Right.
We cannot do the thing that leftists were doing all throughout the fucking first administration, where it's like on Twitter or fucking YouTube or whatever. It's like, oh, this person doesn't. I'm a fucking commie and they're a socialist and we can't be friends.
Okay,
like,
I want to talk about that because I've seen this on Blue Sky a little bit and some people I follow. If you are a leftist, if you identify as a leftist, socialist, communist, whatever you want to call yourself, understand the people that were out there I'm really jiggly today. Wow. In meat space this week, most of them identify as liberal.
Yep.
Liberals
they were not
your allies. Liberals are your friends.
If that was a protest that was like only leftists show up, only if you're anti-democratic party leftists, then it would have not been anything at all.
And keep in mind, the average American who isn't terminally poisoned by this stuff like I am, the words leftist, liberal, socialist, those are all the same word in the media. And so the average person who holds any of those views identifies as a liberal. Because that's how politics is in America.
As I've always said, it's the liberals think they're leftists. The leftists, all the leftists, various stripes of leftists think they're leftists when the other leftists don't think they're leftist. The right thinks we're all leftists and liberals. It becomes fucking pointless after, you know, like to stand on these titles as if it's something relevant is arbitrary and fucking hubristic.
Here's how you know someone is on the right. They will either tell you, because many of them are not subtle creatures, or B, they will claim to be centrist and tut about everything that anyone left of, you know, Franco has ever done. And that's how you'll know they're on the right.
Yeah. So like I would say this is a historic opportunity for leftists in the United States, because unlike every other moment in the rise of various fascisms throughout history. The liberals, for the most part, are not enabling the regime.
Right.
The liberal base, and I'm not talking about the people in institutions of power, but the voters,
right,
are exactly where you want them to be to pull them where you want them to go. And if you are out there going, oh, well, the liberals, you can't trust liberals. They're always not, they'll always enable fascism or whatever. You are missing the moment.
Yeah.
If you cannot pull liberals to the left, because I see this a lot. I see like a lot of people, like leftists say, well, we should be trying to recruit MAGA voters,
right,
and pull them to the left because they already have a suspicion of power and capitalism. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
All right. Liberals do. And if you cannot pull liberals to the left, you have no business being a leftist, because they have a shorter journey to go than MAGA ever will.
And the way to do that is to not say, I'm going to make you're a leftist. It's to say, here's the situation. Here's the analytical, the analysis of the system and the way that it's fucked. And here's how we can fix it. Here's the policies that make sense because they do. And generally, if somebody, is engaged and gives a shit, they're going to see the reason in that stuff. The way to not do it is to go, fucking scream in the faces of every liberal, defund the police. And if they go, oh yeah, well, what do we do about, rapists and stuff? Oh, you fucking liberal, you fucking shit lib. That's not the way you do it. You don't, you answer the questions. You
liberals are all policy wonks.
Slogan, but sorry.
Yeah. Liberals are policy wonks and they want the explanation. So don't say defund the police. You say, hey, look, the police.
I got fucking yelled at on Twitter about this by fucking Aaron Re-Education's bitch ass. And some other people of his ilk back in 2020, because I was seeing this happen over and over again, where somebody would say, well, okay, well, what do we do about like legitimate questions about like if we're, because they don't understand that defund the police, in their mind, that sounds like we're just getting rid of any kind of law enforcement, any kind of rules of law, you know what I mean?
Right.
And safety is what they're thinking. And you need to be able to answer those fucking very valid concerns, you know? And the way was doing that I saw, they were just yelling at him.
Exactly. And the way you do that with liberals is you don't say defund the police. You say, hey, look, police departments are too overburdened and being asked to do things that police should not be doing. We've been cutting the budgets for social services in all of these big cities and sending police out to handle things like wellness checks or mental health interventions that they are not qualified to do. So we need to reduce the budgets of these police departments and put that money over to like social workers who have some BJJ training or something like
Give
that.
them specific examples of the autistic meltdowns that have happened with kids or even adults that where they're like the guy that shows up to deal with that is trained in how to shoot people and to defend himself, and that's really about it. And then here's this person that he has no experience with autism that's acting erratically and lashing out or whatever. What do you think is going to happen?
So I want to touch on something you mentioned there, the training to defend themselves. Police. So like we just had the big military parade, right? So this is an important point of comparison. Soldiers are trained very specifically on when they can and cannot fire their firearms, and the number of places that a soldier can carry their firearms is heavily regulated and restricted. Like if you are a soldier on a base, you cannot carry a weapon on base unless you're an MP or you are going on a deployment where you are required to be armed. Police are trained to carry their gun fucking everywhere,
right,
and to be afraid of everything.
And most militaries have much stricter rules of engagement. Like if you're if you're on a battlefield in Iraq and there's someone you think is an ISIS militia member throwing bombs at you, you cannot just shoot them. You have to get a direct order and request a direct order from your commanding officer, from your chain of command.
Right.
That doesn't mean that soldiers don't shoot people on their own accord all the time. They do, but they're not supposed to. And they know what the rules are. Whereas cops are given a lot of leeway to decide when they are allowed to shoot people. And if you look at the training they've been getting from programs like Killology, I don't know if y'all are familiar with that thing or not, but they're basically being trained to see themselves as wolves traveling among sheep who all want to kill them. So they're trained to see every civilian as a combatant. And that is not, and you can make a case that maybe we need people like that, but those are not the people you want to send to handle autistic meltdowns and suicide prevention because they're not trained to do that. They're trained if they see someone having an autistic meltdown, they're going to shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you sell liberals on defunding the police is to lay out that situation and say we should reduce the budgets of police departments and redistribute those funds to social safety, broader public safety programs that include social work and mental health networks and all that other stuff. And you will convince almost every liberal in the world to do that. And you've just achieved your goal of defunding the police without saying defund the police.
Another approach is to go with let me think of I gotta remember the name of this website. I talked about it in my Punisher videos because it's the very deep dive into the cops and everything that I did for those videos. I came across something extremely upsetting. Give me 1 second, I'll find that. But
so while you're looking for that, we had a comment earlier from McLeod, and I want to pull that up because it's personal. So McLeod asks, how do you get certain you-know-who's that constantly throw certain marginalized groups under the bus, i.e. stop talking about trans people in the name of finding common ground? My question is, why do you buy the right-wing propaganda? Like, why is that the issue you buy the propaganda on? Because when we look at, like, the transphobe pipeline, the J.K. Rowling pipeline, right, where she sold herself as this liberal, and I have no reason to believe she didn't see herself as a liberal who voted for the Labour Party, as a progressive person. But she got all up in this transphobia thing, and now she's done Holocaust denial. Her books were already very racially insensitive, and that has not been improved in her subsequent writings. She's friends with neo-Nazis now. She is engaging in racism as far as like getting people banned from the Olympics. As soon as you are willing to buy one part of the propaganda, where do you stop? So if someone is like, well, let's stop talking about trans people. It's like, well, why are you buying the right-wing narrative that we need to stop talking about trans people, that they're worth throwing under the bus, when you don't buy that on anything else?
Mm-hmm. And also,
go ahead.
Simplify it even further and say trans people aren't the problem. Billionaires are the problem.
That's true.
That's the elevator pitch of what you just said. Billionaires are trying to divide the working class by convincing us that working class trans people and working class cis people, in this example, are enemies when we're not.
We're not.
And the reason that the right focuses so much on trans people and diversity and DEI and all this other stuff is because they understand intersectionality.
They do.
They understand that the working class is multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-gender, multi-religious, and if we ever realize that, we will defeat them. So they have to divide us.
And they pick specific minorities that are small enough that you don't see them.
Yeah.
Because they
and
know.
To bring it around.
Oh, go ahead.
To bring around full circle to why a channel called Actual Fandom is talking about this stuff at all, is because that's exactly what the content that we criticized historically on this channel is about. It's just another arm of that goal of dividing, of cutting off the they don't want this stuff in movies. They don't want it in stuff. It's not because it bothers them or really anything. It's just because they don't want people to have empathy, and you empathize with characters and stories and movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Once you see somebody like, oh wait, this is a trans person in a movie, and like they're kind of regular person,
Yeah, they're just kind of
or whatever.
Like
it's they don't like that shit because that means that that's one step closer to solidarity when that's their fucking enemy.
That's one of the reasons I started using the camera on stream, is I was nervous about that for fucking ever. I'm like, I think it's important
to this. The Puppyside Database Project.
What?
The Puppyside Database Project was founded in 2014 in an attempt to determine how many domestic pets were killed by law enforcement in the U.S. For years, so it's closed down now. I didn't know that. Like, they're not doing it anymore, not accepting submissions. But, yeah.
Like, I know cops kill a lot of dogs.
They do. And I feel like the number was crazy high. The one, like, per day, it was something like, I don't know, 100 or something more dogs a day are just shot by cops, because with like what they do they are allowed to legally, if they show up to serve a warrant or just to knock on your door because the neighbors said your music is too loud, something like that, and your dog starts running at them barking, they are legally allowed to just shoot and kill that dog.
Yeah. Speaking of shooting and asking questions, never, we have a super cat from Sean.
Whoa, money.
$20. Whoa.
On duty days, I worked the armory and did use on force training. Not only was the ladder for deadly force high, why we told you better be able to justify its use, and being scared is not an acceptable excuse. I mean, obviously, being scared is the worst time to want to fucking fire a weapon. If you're not, you need to be confident about what you're doing.
That's an acceptable excuse for cops, though.
Right.
You'll hear them make that argument all the time.
All the time.
Legal proceedings and stuff. That, I was scared, so I had to, pull out my weapon and kill the guy.
I have a friend I've played Warhammer with for.
No, they don't. Like, God, what liberals are you talking to? I'm so fucking blown away by you every single time, McLeod. I'm not saying never, it happens, but like, I don't feel like I hear liberals going like, stop being woke.
Those aren't okay. So like, there is a pundit class of online liberal that describes themselves as liberal, that writes for the New York Times, that calls themselves liberal because it's gauche to be called a conservative in.
But you're not going to run into those people in the wild. Like that's.
Oh yeah, you do.
Right.
Well, I mean, but
absolutely
it's
do.
Not to the degree that...
online in the wild, yeah, but out in the real world.
Yeah. When I talk about liberals, I mean voters and grassroots people who, by the way, McLeod, already are on your side.
Yeah.
You don't have to do much work to bring them over there. All you have to do is have the skills to meet them where they are.
People that are willing
get them to understand they already agree with you.
The people that are willing to throw trans people under the bus in the name of achieving, some kind of socialism, whatever the fuck it is that they want to do. There are plenty of leftists that describe themselves as leftists, and they have said that kind of thing. I've seen a lot of those. But the problem there is that you can't talk them out of it because they haven't developed an actual sense of of intersectionality. They don't have that. They may pay lip service to it, but they may say, oh well, if we just achieve this, then we'll be able to take care of the racism and the bigotry and stuff. But like
Sketchy on Hands is making a great point in chat right now. Speak about your values, not your politics.
Yep.
And this is how I formulate my own political allegiances. I base my politics on my values, not the other way around. And
right.
Self-identified leftists already share a lot of values with self-identified liberals.
Yeah.
And you start talking about like equality, diversity, inclusion, kindness, empathy, and let that lead your conversation through the conversations about trans rights or DEI or whatever. And you will find very quickly that once you get that person to understand that they already share your values and their values already support your position better than the one they think it does, you're more than halfway there.
This is why the right is. Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
Oh, I was just gonna say I learned that when I was doing fundraising for like Greenpeace and Save the Children and all that other stuff. They taught you as the fundraiser, the person doing the public facing with talking to the public, your job is to get the other person to see that their values they already believe in support your position, because then you're not challenging their identity. If they feel like you're challenging their identity, they're not going to listen to you. But
So
if you're
this
talking
is
to
the very reason that the right constantly reduces things down to the most simplistic, reductive, stupid version of whatever the issue is. And it's also the same reason that the first thing they will do is label you a certain thought terminating cliche name. You know what I mean? Is because if they don't do that, there's a chance that somebody might start listening to, if they, if some chud sees me talking about, the grifters or whatever, and they show up in the comments and they go, oh, you're a grifter, you're just a fucking cuck or whatever it is they want to say, that in their mind is hopefully going to prevent anybody else from thinking further about what I'm saying and actually engaging with the concepts that I'm describing, because they fucking don't want that.
This is why they're so right-wing media figures are so intent on referring to all immigrants to this country as illegals, because they want that thought terminating cliche. This is why the whole Grimmer panic exists. They don't want to talk about gay people or lesbians or trans people. They just want to call us all groomers. Never mind that if you're looking for the people who actually like abuse and prey upon children, it's almost always fucking conservatives. That's why like the not a drag queen, not a trans person meme exists, is because it's like it will be some right-wing preacher or state politician who's doing essay.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to
And
just
to be more specific, I wouldn't say it's necessarily, I mean, it is often conservatives, but I think that's just an accidental consequence of the fact that conservatives have power in our country. Like the people who abuse children are drawn to institutions of power.
Sure.
And they will align themselves with whatever ideology they need to get that power and access to
yeah.
children. So it's not a function of conservatism per se. It's a function of power hierarchies that we've set up in our society.
I will say that conservative patriarchal power structures lend themselves to authoritarian deference that encourage and enable that behavior in a way that a more open power structure does not.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I wanted to point out just one thing before we get the fuck out of here. One more thing is that Arkansas Nepo governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who I'm not convinced is not just Mike Huckabee in a wig. She had some choice things to say about what all these the crimes going on, in these protests and stuff like that. She's talking about all these crimes and these criminals doing all this criminal shit, and like only in California. Over here in Arkansas, we wouldn't fucking allow that kind of shit.
Let's talk about Arkansas's crime rates. I presume
Arkansas has a higher crime rate than the national average, particularly for violent crimes. The state's violent crime rate is significantly higher than the national average, and its property crime rate is also above the average. In 2023, Arkansas ranked 4th among states for high violent crime rates and 10th for high property crime rates. So, that's just, I want to point that out because that's almost the case in nearly any time one of these people is taking such a hard line stance on some shit like that. Is like, okay, you're projecting, you're trying to deflect from what you got going on. So
this is like one of those things that they definitely abuse or did abuse. Now they're trying to undermine these systems, which I think is part of the reason why these No Kings protests have gone as well as they have when they've attacked Medicare and Medicaid, which are both very, very popular programs amongst all Americans, not just the ones they pretend to care about. Is that blue states fund those programs more than red states do, and red states draw on them more than blue states do, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes, that like I thought, like people will go, yeah. So you want it just to go to blue states? No, I want the money to go where the people need it. That's how my beliefs work.
That's my value system. Everyone's entitled to top quality healthcare, no matter where they live or what their political ideology is.
Right.
And then I also want to say real quick that I realized right after I said it that I shouldn't have described her that way. I was literally looking at pictures of her, and I'm like, man, she looks just like her dad.
She does look like her father.
But
have they ever been seen in the same place at the same time?
I think I have.
The slight that I made, kind of could be seen as maybe, not.
Yeah, it's a little bit transphobic.
I was a little bit. I'm going to give you a pass just this once.
So I just want to give it, before we go, I want to give a rare shout out and cry of critical support to Gavin Newsom, who has been trolling the governors of red states on this very issue on social media. Like every time, like the last week or so, or ever since the thing in LA kicked off, every time a red state governor or senator or something talks about the violent crime in LA or something, he retweets them and talks about the crime statistics of their state and how much worse they are than California.
Yeah. I do enjoy that, Gavin.
Gavin Newsom has some fucking problems. We're not about to line up and be the singers of his praises or anything.
Right.
However, right now, this is a critical moment, and probably will be some critical moments for the foreseeable future, and we're going to need to have strategic, alliances and appreciation for people that actually do have some power and make decent choices with that power.
Because I think before now, and probably at some point after now, he will make decisions that is using his power to reinforce autocracy. Where right now he is doing the opposite of that. And so we are at the moment on the same side, and I'm happy to cheer him on while we're on the same side.
He's doing it right now. He supports the LAPD and has been glazing them endlessly. However, he also, being a craven political cynic, he can do math, and he sees which side of the bread the butter is on. So he's going there, and he knows right now the energy. If he wants to be the presidential nominee, he has to fight Trump, because that's what the base of the Democratic Party wants. So that's why he's doing it. I don't for a minute think that he will keep doing that if the political winds shift in Trump's favor and Trump becomes more popular. But for right now, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I do need to get going, because I do have my family wanting to hang out with me for Father's Day and watch a movie or something. So,
well, y'all watch a movie and have fun.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, we're trying to establish movie nights throughout the summer. Like cute. So like we're gonna start the MCU. Me and the boy on Mondays. We'll have MCU Mondays.
Aw,
nice.
You know what would be a cool movie for Father's Day that's in fitting with this being Sunday Fap Day? Indiana Jones.
And the Last Crusade.
And the Last Crusade, and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'll have to see, because honestly, I mean, I enjoyed those when I was a kid. I haven't gone back to visit them like a lot since then. I've seen them as an adult, and they're fine, but I never held them as quite as high as like Star Wars, like it seems like a lot of people do.
Well, Star Wars is always a great option for Father's Day, since fathers is a huge theme of that story.
A lot of daddy issues in Star Wars.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, might as well. Okay.
But also a lot of daddy issues in Iron Man. So
true.
All righty. I enjoy every day of fatherhood.
Aww.
Certain moments, though, not so much, but every day, generally, I try to enjoy it.
That's nice.
And with that in mind, Bob, you have some old ways that you talk about somewhere. What's up?
Well, yeah, I have a channel, Bob of the Old Ways. I'm working on a video essay, and you know how that goes. I work 40 hours a week, so I don't have a lot of free time. I'm medium term planning on maybe starting live streaming on Monday nights, Pacific time. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, just, go sign up to my channel and look at all my old content, especially about Rings of Power, because that's what gets the most traffic. And thanks for your support.
Yeah.
Morgan, anything you want to say?
I got something to plug. Rare Morgan plug. I'm gonna do the thing. So I will be running games at a convention on Saturday, the August 16th, I believe is the date. I'm gonna be there.
Whoa.
Yep, I will be at Phoenix Con in Appleton, Wisconsin on August 16th. And I'll pull this up for folks to see.
Hell yeah.
There's a gaming convention up there, so if you're in the Midwest and are looking for something to do, that's actually my birthday weekend. So you can come by and wish me happy birthday, and I can try and kill you in Pathfinder.
Yes. I wish I could make that trip. That sounds fun.
So yeah, that's what I've got. Looking forward to prepping for that. And yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. I have sex with ladies. That's right.
Ew.
That's gay.
It's super gay. Yeah, I mean, if you're not doing it for procreation, there's that super conservative couple that's what they were saying. That, like, the dude was like, if you have sex for any reason other than making a baby, it's gay.
And now Andrew
Tate
we
have gone. Men are not okay, man. We've gone wrong.
Just remember, since it is Pride Month, just remember that all parades are gay.
It's true.
It's true. Except for the one yesterday. It was gay, but like derogatory gay.
There's a lot of gay guys in that crowd.
Probably true. Yeah. And we'll have to plan a specific Pride Fap before the month's over, I think.
Yeah.
With that in mind, let's hear Cliff Cash talk about Trump's neck pussy.
Woo! Dudes with 9 marriages between them are selling a USA Bible that's made in China. And you can have one too for $69.99. If you only had one sentence to sum it all up with, that's a pretty good one, you know? I don't want people to think I'm one of those people, you know? I know that sounds a little bit weird, but like, I'm a middle-aged, husky, bearded, southern white dude, you know? I don't want to be mistaken for one of these people, you know? But people do it all the time. They will. They'll see me and be like, hey, man, same team. I'm like, no, Don't you dare talk to me about the issues. So I've been trying to figure out, like, how can I set myself apart? So I've been trying to get in better shape. And now listen, some of y'all are like, what is that? I don't understand the correlation. Let me tell you, no matter how many hikes I go on or how many green smoothies I drink, I still got this fucking Ted Cruz neck, you know what I mean? It's like a bigot neck. Look at it. It looks racist. Because they all got that fat neck. Tucker Carlson's got that neck. Sean Hannity's got that neck. Think about it. Run them through your head right now. Slideshow. All got a racist neck. It's a bigot neck. It's like a neck cankle is what it is. It's a little shoulder top muffin top. Like it ought to have a little rebel flag tramp stamp on the back. They all got that bigot neck. Rush Limbaugh used to have that bigot neck. Lindsey Graham's got it, you know. Mike Huckabee, Sarah Huckabee. Again, I know we shouldn't body shame, but I'll make an exception for Nazis. There's at least one liberal in here that's like, don't body shame people. I make exceptions for Nazis and you should too. I will body shame the shit out of a Nazi. That's the problem. We're like, don't body shame the Nazis. I'm like, they just arrested a mayor. I think it's time to quit being nice to them. Oh, it's so crazy. I know you're thinking, he didn't mention the most famous neck of them all, Mitch McConnell. But I don't talk about Mitch McConnell's neck because I feel like people are so mean about his neck. And I'm like, man, your neck would look like that too if you didn't have a spine. And that's a joke about Mitch McConnell being a piece of shit. That's a bipartisan crowd pleaser right there. If you think Mitch McConnell's a good dude, you're a truly terrible human being. What about the big guy? What about his neck? What about Trump's neck? Trump doesn't have bigot neck, oddly enough. Trump has pussy neck. Have you seen it? Holy shit. Got a little vagina right on the front. Right, it's a good looking little hoo-ha too. It's nice. It's a little camel toe. It's all tan and shaved. It reminds me of Spring Break 2003, Panama City Beach. I start feeling nostalgia. I can't even tell you the conflicted emotions I feel. I got a semi looking at the neck of a man I hate more than the ferocity of 1,000 suns. I wish he'd quit talking, but that's a damn good looking neck hoo-ha.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.